Why is that not bringing that up? Appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Hello, hello. How are you? Hope everybody is doing well today. I left my headphones, so I won't be able to use those today. How's the picture? Trib isn't biblical. Can you see the pre-trib, or is the picture cut off again? What's up, brother?
Yeah, so the in the flood was real is cut off, and pre is missing in pre-trib.
You gotta be kidding me. All right. Let's try and see if this fixes it.
I didn't even pay attention to evolution is false. Let me drop back down, or maybe DOA can help. I don't know. I'll drop back down.
All right, let's try that one. That one's smaller. So tell me if that one's you're able to see that one.
How do I drop?
I'll drop.
Disconnect. I got it.
Okay. Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing? I got you. Okay. Yes, sir. I believe in microevolution. That's testable and observable, but everything outside of that is not, like macroevolution. It's not testable and observable. So it's all inferred. Well, I said I believe in microevolution. I clearly just, like, I literally just said that. So, yeah, that would count. All right, thank you, man. Appreciate you coming. God bless. All right, so evolution is false is completely missing. Man, what is going on with this thing? I don't get it. I spent like 45 minutes trying to format this photo.
I couldn't even hear that dude talking. I don't know if
Couldn't even hear the guy talking.
No, I couldn't. He had a mute symbol on like his mic, but I didn't have him muted, so I don't. That's kind of weird.
Huh.
Yeah, so it needs to go to the. If you're looking at the screen, it needs to go to the. It needs to slide over to the right. Looks like it needs to drop down because evolution is false was like cut in half.
All right, let me see if I can change the layout. See if that fixes it. If not, I'll go fix it. So let's try to see if this fixes it.
That might be way too small. Let me check. Yeah, that's good. It's too small.
Okay.
But it's good.
It gets frustrating sometimes. I try to format them photos. There's no way for me to see it or tell.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. I do have a question though.
Okay.
Say one has to be fitted for a mask, and that person usually at all times wears a full grown beard.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you? And in the event of an emergency, they needed to put on said mask. Why wouldn't they want that mask to fit the beard as well?
Yeah. So it's when I get fitted, I have to get fitted for an N95, but I'm actually above that rank now, so I don't ever wear the N95. But I have to I have to get fitted for a gas mask.
Hey, how
Doing good. Hold on one second, brother. You got a lot of background noise. Fix that background noise and let me finish answering this question right here. I'll let you up. So the I have to get fitted for the gas mask for the team. Now a gas mask will fit over my beard because I keep it at half an inch, and it seals just fine because the gas mask actually goes around here. But per our departmental policies, when you go to get fitted, you have to be clean shaven, or they're not going to allow you to get fit tested. So it's extremely silly, but I'm not mad at the department. That's just the rules. So that's why I have to shave to get fitted for the mask, even though the mask will seal perfectly with a half-inch beard. Alfonso, what's up, man?
Hey man, I kind of like walked around tucking the dog out, but evolution is false. The Bible was real. Uh, Pre-trib isn't biblical. Okay, that part I don't know, but I believe I believe the flood is real because a lot of stuff in the Bible is from overseas. Even the Middle Eastern was telling me stuff. So I think the Bible is real.
Amen, bro. Amen.
I may not understand everything in the Bible, like the pre-trib, the mid-trib, because I didn't really. But I believe that in order to get saved, you got to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior.
Okay,
And
amen.
that's the only way. The only way to heaven is through Jesus. That's what I believe. So,
Amen.
Hello?
God don't want religion; He wants a relationship. We got a lot of religious stuff going on,
Yes, sir.
and what you call it, rituals, and it's not biblical.
Okay.
So that's why what's he said, the words. What makes a man to make the words of God an uneffects without unbelief and ignorance.
Hey, so I have a quick question. What's the argument for like the flood being real?
Probably straight fossils, hydrologic sorting, dinosaur bone beds, soft tissue, and dinosaur and DNA being found in dinosaurs.
Yep, and Turkey.
Okay, keep going.
They found it in Turkey. They found
I don't. They some people making the claim that they found the art, but I caution Christians to say that that's definitive, because if it turns out that it's not, then we got egg on our face. So I'd be real careful about just looking at shapes in the dirt. And the only evidence that they have that it's real right now is that the organic material inside the shape it has more organic material inside of it than it does outside of it, which would be consistent if the boat collapsed in on itself. But I think we need to get rid of all the other possibilities before we start proclaiming that this is the boat and it not turn out to be.
They were saying during World War One or World War II that the Germans was exploiting the Italians. I think it was Italians. They found it and they had dimensions of it. I think it said Germans did too, and it mysteriously disappeared.
Think? Yo, nothing says you're confident than constantly having to prove yourself. It's so weird.
All right.
So desperate. You're desperate.
Well, I'm just
You're
saying.
desperate for attention. You Christians are just desperate. You can't worship your God.
So weird.
Can I make a comment?
I don't get the comment. Like, well, that was totally weird. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
Well, basically, they said they had a National Geographic thing. They talked about it, but they're saying that they had filming what soldiers were over there, and they were exploring. They found it. They had the dimensions of it and everything, and it mysteriously, they disappeared. They can't find it. So, I mean, I believe it's true, but people can believe what they want, but I believe that that's the only way to go. Get saved, accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. You can accept it or not. You got people in the Middle East saying that they're having dreams, supernatural visions of, and dreams and stuff about Jesus, and they start to question a lot of stuff that they were taught.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, appreciate you sharing that. BB, what's up, brother?
Hey,
Oh,
I'm a sister, but
hey,
that's
sister, how are
okay.
you?
I'm interested to hear about. You said something about dinosaur DNA.
Yeah, soft tissue and dinosaur DNA. Yeah.
Okay, I want to hear more about that with the proving the flood, if you don't mind.
Sure. So so are you wanting me to specifically show you where they're finding the DNA fragments, or you want me to go over why
No,
finding it fits the flood model?
So if you are, why does that prove that the flood is real? The DNA fragments that were found.
All right, great question. So it in itself wouldn't, but what it does do is there's two models, and unless somebody else wants to bring up another one, it's possibly not a true dichotomy. But most people would fall into two categories. Either there's a young Earth, like the Bible says, or it's really old, like the mainstream scientists say. So dinosaurs, if we could find them, if we had proof that they lived 4,500 years ago and not millions or billions of years ago, then it would fit them being unalived in the flood model, meaning that these huge bone beds would fit how they unalived, obviously, during the flood. And the fact that they were fossilized fits the flood model. So,
Okay, yeah,
yeah,
that's
so
interesting. Why then? I guess now I would be interested in hearing like what falsifies evolution to you, because both can be true at once, right? Like if there is soft tissue fragments of DNA found from dinosaurs, even if it is a younger Earth, evolution can still be true.
No, they can't be true. No,
Why is that?
they can't be. Both things cannot be true at once.
Why is that?
Because
so
carbon dating shows that dinosaurs were 6 million years old,
no,
and this guy is talking about a boat.
carbon dating doesn't show that at all. I agree with you that they both couldn't be the
Like
same because the
carbon
Bible,
dating doesn't show what?
carbon dating doesn't show that at all, brother. You're factually inaccurate about that. It's
Okay,
not.
so what does carbon dating show us? The breakdown of
dating-
carbons by year,
Yeah,
and that's how
old-
they figure out how old.
Justin, I'm
things
trying to
are.
help you. I'm trying to help you.
Oh,
Carbon
okay,
dating
tell me.
can't.
All right, I'm trying
Carbon
to.
dating cannot go past 50,000 years. So when you say that it proves dinosaurs are millions of years old, when you can't carbon date something past 50,000 years, you are so factually inaccurate, it's not funny. And I'm trying to help you not to look silly. So the fact that they're finding carbon-14 in dinosaur bones means that it's less than 50,000 years. Okay, champ? That's what that means. So you have to
So
use
if
the
I
other
go to
dating
Google
technique,
right
not
now and
carbon.
ask,
I don't care. Ask Google. Ask
and
Google what
it's
the
gonna
half-life of
tell me
carbon
what you
is.
just said. It can't go past 40,000 years.
It's going to tell you if you ask Google about
And
carbon.
even if it goes to 40,000 years, does that go with your
Are you
timeline?
trying to get kicked? Are you trying to get kicked?
I'm asking questions.
Then let me answer the question. So here's the question. If you Google carbon-14, I don't know what your prompt what you're asking it, but it's going to tell you that the half-life is
It says
5,000.
evolution is false. The flood was real.
All right, listen. Come back up
That's
when
your
you can try.
prompt. You ask me what your
Try it again when you can come. When you can come back up, try it again. Right now, you're just too spazzy. You're spazzing out too much for me to deal with this early in the live. Get your thoughts together and then come back up. Because what you stated was that carbon-14 proves that dinosaurs are millions of years old. No, it doesn't. The half-life is 5,000. You can't. It goes from a half to a quarter to an eighth to a 16th, 32nd, 64th, and then it keeps going. But technically, you shouldn't find any measurable carbon-14 in anything older than 50,000 years because the half-life is 5,000. Okay. So the fact that they're finding carbon-14 in dinosaur bones shows that it's less than 50,000 years old. Go research that and come back so you can engage with the argument because you're wrong. Now, BB, you were interrupted. I apologize.
No worries at all. I actually wanted to. I think that my scope on this is better fit for DNA. So I was wondering what makes evolution false in your view.
Are you still wanting me to answer the dinosaur DNA question? Because it kind of alluded that.
Well, no, well, what I was saying before he came up was that basically, like a young and an old Earth, regardless of that fact, evolution can still be true. The way that species have evolved. So I was saying that and asking you to tell me why evolution is not true in that case.
Like what species has evolved?
I believe in microevolution. I think that's testable and observable. So microevolution is just taking a trait, isolating it, encouraging it, or discouraging it. So that part is clearly testable and observable. But I don't have enough room to put everything up here, obviously. So when I talk about evolution, there's 6 different types of evolution: cosmic evolution, chemical evolution, stellar evolution. Then you got life, and within life you have life from non-life, which would be abiogenesis, and then you inside of that you have micro and macro. So I believe in micro because that's testable and observable. All of the other different styles of evolution are not; they're all inferred. So when I talk about evolution being false, I'm talking about everything but micro.
Makes me feel a little bit better. Yeah, because testable and observable. What would you define as micro then versus what kind of macroevolution are you testifying against?
Yeah, so microevolution would be, like I said, genetic isolation, like traits isolation or encouragement or discouragement. Macro would be genetic information gain, going from like one kind to another kind. An example of this is when evolutionists say that reptiles turned into birds.
Well,
Right?
the issue with that is just the fact that macro, comes from micro. All of the genetic differences are coming from somewhere. So it's just a change in DNA, and it is always based on advantageous or disadvantageous traits.
Right, but I just need an example of that is testable and observable that's not inferred. So we go from micro, which is science, and then we get off into fairy tale when we start inferring that it does stuff that's never been tested and observed.
Well, here's the thing: everything's a conspiracy when you don't understand it. So
I
the
understand
fact of
it just doesn't happen.
no, I'm not. Yeah, sorry, I'm not necessarily saying that. It's just that most people, when you say like, here's a dinosaur and it turned into a chicken, and it's like, no, it didn't, dude. But it sounds like you do understand it because you're talking about microevolution, the way that genetics change, the way that abnormalities happen and can be advantageous or disadvantageous, and the way that they stick around based on how advantageous they are to their environment, right? So I'm having trouble. Is it because you believe in the young Earth, like you were saying? Like, do you not believe that there is enough time for species to be able to evolve on that level
Well,
because of that?
Not necessarily. No, I don't believe in it because there's no evidence for it. So the evolutionary saving technique would be time, but evolution is not time based; it's generational based. Now, I'm not saying time doesn't play a factor because clearly we live in a time. We live in time, so obviously time plays a factor. But it's not time based. It's generational based. So in 80,000 generations, which is roughly over 1 million years of human evolution, in 80,000 generations, it would take us 1 million years to achieve that. We have done that in bacteria because bacteria can have up to 9 generations in a single day. We've done this with the Linsky experiment. So why is it that when we test and observe the bacteria, we get degraded information? But long ago and far away, in the same amount of generational counts, we had all of this information gained. But
What do you mean
test and observe it, it's losing information.
Bacteria is losing information as it evolves? Sorry, I'm not tracking that part.
No, I got you. The very specific experiment that I gave, the Linsky experiment, they're degrading. They're not evolving, they're losing information.
Evolution usually is a detractable from the thing. It doesn't usually add anything helpful.
Now, see, that's a great point. That is a great point. But
Well,
the problem
nowadays,
is
so
you have to have a standard. And so my standard would be genetic information gain for evolutionists to be
sure,
real. Hold on,
but
I'll let you answer, BB. Let me just land this right here to respond to what he said, then I'll let you.
Go ahead.
But evolution in itself, the theory cannot be degradative because if that's the case, you don't have a falsifiable viewpoint. And you would agree that if we went from a single-celled organism to a fully functional human, we didn't do that by losing all of our information. So you can't show me examples of degradation and then claim that information gained happened.
Sure. So I think a really important point to make as we're observing evolution as it happens today, it is not the same as it happened millions of years ago, of course, right? Because what do we have now? A lot of human-made things that allow us to not need to evolve further. So, for example, melanin. You know, like we evolved with melanin on our skin based on where we're at, closer or not to the equator. Now we have shelter. Now we have sunscreen. Now we have all of these things. We don't need to evolve in that sense.
I
in so
understand that.
many
Maybe
ways. So
I'm
it's-
not trying to cut you off, but I've already conceded microevolution. So that's kind of null and void because melanin is a trait that already existed, and you
Well-
can encourage it to get more or discourage it to get less. That still wouldn't be evolution.
Well, so what I guess I'm trying
So,
to convey is just the fact that you're talking about like gaining traits, and there, especially with the human race, there's nothing that we need to gain right now that would make us advantageous, because there's everything that is disadvantageous we can treat.
Yeah, but you still have single-celled organisms, and they had single-celled organisms back then. If we all come from a single-celled organism, why are they not evolving anymore?
May I
So
ask you a question? They are, first of all.
If it's
And
on
second
top
of all,
of it, what are they evolving into?
single cellular organisms still evolve. This is
Into what?
recorded. We know this.
What is it recorded?
what?
Stop.
They evolve to their climate and their habitat.
Like what? Give me an example
I
of
don't
a
know,
single-celled
bro. But it's
organism.
just a fact. Like, I'm not here to argue facts and shit.
I
know-
actually don't think that's
Hold
a
on, wait.
fact.
All right, so now I have, hold on. I have a full room. So let me go over my rules really quickly. And these rules apply to me too. Rule number 1 is you have to answer questions directly, and then you can expound. Rule number 2 is that if you make a claim, you have to support that claim. Back off of the claim, or say, I don't know. I don't know is a perfectly reasonable answer. You cannot make a claim that the claim is real, and then refuse to support it, because then the conversation is going to be over, because if you're not supporting the claim, but you're refusing to back off of it, that's the same thing as a lie. And then my final rule is use TikTok language and don't cuss, obviously, because families like to listen to me and I don't want to get my page kicked. So with that being said, you said that we have single-celled organisms. It's been documented that they're still evolving. So I would like for you to either support that claim or let's back off of it and try to go somewhere else.
So, can I ask you a question about the Alinsky experiment?
Hold on, brother. Yeah, but I just wanted him to support that claim or back off of it, and then yeah, you can ask me after that.
Okay.
Napoleon, did you copy that? All right.
Oh yeah, I copy that. Is this like a middle school citation thing? Do I need to give you a citation, or can I Google will suffice?
I mean, I can Google things too. Just tell me what we're talking about, and if you have a specific paper, we can go to. But I mean, just give me some kind of idea what I can look into.
So Google suffices. Can I get the big screen?
Not when I
Show
have
you.
it split like this. When I have it split like this, I won't let y'all get the big screen for some stupid reason. And he left. Oh no, it moved over. My bad.
Wait, so you can't read that? No.
Yeah, so just give me an overview. What is it evolving into?
It's Google. It's evolving into multicellular organisms and shit.
So I know if it's the Tammy got a lot of background noise. I'm gonna mute you up for a second. So when it's talking about it's evolving into a multicellular organism, it's not. What they're doing is they put these single-celled organisms inside of like a petri dish, basically, and then they add a chemical into it, and they bunch together. And what they say is this is the pre. Yeah, I'll let you up, Azrael, as soon as I get some room. You're next on the queue. What these singular cellular organisms do is bunch together. So they say because they start acting like a family group that therefore they're multicellular organisms. They're not. That would be no different than you saying that cows bunching up together when lightning strikes is now the cows are multicellular organisms in themselves, not by themselves, but all together now make a larger organism. So we do not see single-celled organisms going into multicellular organisms. We see single-cell organisms bunching together to face a threat. It's no different than cows herding together during a lightning storm. So that's not.
like a source, proving that they're
Yeah,
putting chemicals
yeah.
in there and like
Yeah, go to
they're not
the go to
evolving?
the, yeah, the source that you just brought up. Ask it for the source material, and then go read it.
Why would they do that in an evolution study though? Why would they place a chemical into the petri dish knowing that it would try to defend itself?
They're trying to force. So you got to place it into an environment to force it to evolve, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to make it face a specific scenario to try to get it to evolve. That's what you're trying to do. So they're having it face a threat to see if it will evolve a mechanism around the threat. So they see it bumping together, so they say, okay, it's becoming part of a larger organism, but it's not. It's still single-celled organisms. They're not multicellular organisms.
I'll look into that. I have a couple more questions. Don't you believe that there would be archaeological evidence of a worldwide flood?
Yes, there is. Polystratofossils, hydrologic sorting, dinosaur bone beds.
Okay.
Sediment.
Do you believe our ancestors had tails?
Hold on, I gave you. I will come back to you, but I gave you 2 questions. But I did tell my man Sokram that I will come to him. And since I've gave you 3 questions now, I will come back to you. So just stay tight. But I don't want to be rude to him since I told him I would come to him. What you got, boss man?
Yeah. So I did a little research into it, and so it doesn't say that what you're saying. It does prove. I know you want to distinguish microevolution from macroevolution. I do understand that, but I need you to understand that micro, when compounded,
I understand the theory, brother. I just need evidence for it. So, but you said I was wrong about the Linsky experiment. So what did I get wrong about that?
you said that it does not prove, because like you're saying that because it just changed a little. Like it went from being able to eat one food to being able to not eat a food source to eating a food source. You believe that is simply microevolution, and therefore it does not prove.
Yeah, but the way you're phrasing the question, just the way you're phrasing it, implies that they have that they gained something new.
They
Like
did.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Yeah, they
So
did.
what? No, they didn't.
Cells can't
Yeah,
So I can-
add DNA
Now,
or
I
anything.
I can give you the evidence, or you can just keep saying yeah, and I can keep saying no, and we can go nowhere. But would you like me to give it to you?
I will give you. Would you like me to give you my evidence first, or would you like to give me yours? Because I think you've given yours a few times.
Yeah. So when you say something new, are you aware that they already had the ability to digest citrate before the experiment? Because that's where you're going. I know where you're going.
Yes, citrate is the one, and just because they were able to, did not all right.
I can tell you what happened. And I can save you a lot of time, but I don't want to be rude and not let you go. Yeah. So are you aware?
I'm trying to explain it to you. Do you want me to talk to you, or you want to talk to me?
Okay, go ahead, brother. I'll let you go. Go ahead.
I appreciate that. You do go from like a single cell and a cow are not comparable. Don't do stupid shit like that, please.
Stay on the Linsky, brother. Do the Linsky.
So you're saying that specific like adaptation, it was not simply it turning off a signal to not digest citrate or whatever signal you believe it is. It was actually it can be considered a mechanical error in its duplication. And that is actually a really good way to put evolution, a mechanical error in duplication. I love that. Actually.
No, that is not what evolution is. That's not what evolution is. Evolution is one species becoming another species. That's what evolution is.
Let me go ahead and tell you what.
That's false. That's false.
Together.
No, it's
not
not.
right.
It's not
Still
necessarily
individuals.
Hold
A
on.
group of cells. A group.
Go ahead. Azrael, land your point, and then I want to respond to him about the Linsky.
Okay, a group of cells that start living together, but they are not specialized to where they don't do all the same thing, is not becoming a multicellular organism. When each cell in your body has a different mode of that it does. If it's a starfish, a human, a monkey, whatever, they have specialized cells that do specific jobs. That is the whole point of an organism functioning as multicellular. A group of cells that are all doing the same thing and all have the same task that live together is a bunch of individuals living together in a colony. That's exactly what a bacterial colony is. It's a bunch of cells living together. That does not mean they're multicellular.
Yeah, so with the Linsky experiment, so Kram, like I was telling you, what happened was is they put you said I was incorrect and you still hadn't told me what I was incorrect about. But what happened is they took wild E. coli bacteria that has a flagellum, a little spinning motor like a little tic-tac-tail that allows it to swim around and get its food. So they took these bacteria, and what happens is because they don't have lungs like we have lungs, their transfer proteins that allow them to change to get their food source changes in the presence of oxygen or unoxygenated environments. So when there's oxygen present, the transfer protein allows in glucose. So out here on your kitchen table, when you have this strand of E. coli, it eats glucose. If you were to digest that bacteria and it was inside your colon to where there's no oxygen present, the transfer protein would change shape and allow it to eat citrate. So the Linsky experiment had a wild E. coli bacteria that had a flagellum that could eat two food sources in two different environments.
It can
Once
actually
they
consume, yes, while oxygen is present, it can.
Yeah, I
now
know.
consume
I don't. Let me just get it out. I don't
that.
need you. I don't need.
I don't. We're just.
My goodness, brother. I don't need you to confirm what I'm saying. I already know that I'm right. So what happened is in the Linsky experiment, their flagellum has devolved. It's less functional because they can't swim and get their food anymore. So that is actually going away. Secondly, they started eating citrate in an oxygenated environment. So all the papers come out and said, this is evolution, this is evolution. But what happened was, as part of their genome has devolved. The mechanism that changes the transfer of proteins is no longer there. So the mechanism for them to digest citrate is now turned on, but it was already there. It did not create any new information.
So it devolved.
It is devolving as losing
Right.
information.
Like I
All right,
said,
so Kram, you can
form of
unmute
evolution
now and hold on,
makes
guys.
them weaker, never,
Guys,
hardly ever
I didn't know I
benefits.
was on mute.
Uh,
Damn.
let
I
him-
actually wasn't looking, and I did not realize I was on mute. Shit.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
actually,
because I was trying to get it out. So go ahead and respond now.
oh gosh, no. I'm just like it really like messed up my whole thing in the brain train of thought. Seeing me being muted and I don't know, fucked me up entirely. Could you? Fuck. What did you just say? I literally don't.
That's that's the problem. That's the whole problem right there. You come up, you claim that I'm wrong, and then while I'm trying to get you to say why I'm
From
wrong,
a scientific.
see
All right,
how you're just
from a
ignoring what I'm saying, dude. Get off my stage. I can't have conversations with people like you. You literally just asked me to repeat what I said so that you could catch up. And then while I repeat it, I get 3 words out, and you're more interested in trying to get a gotcha than you are in a conversation because you're not listening. You're not listening. And trying to get a. Oh,
It's a waste of your time.
Why do we have tailbones?
Say it again.
Why do we have tailbones?
They're anchor points for our reproductive organs. I hope you're not going to a vestigial argument for evolution because, again, even if I was to grant you that vestigial structures are a thing, but it's not. Vestigial structures in the way that you're saying and that why do we have tailbones, that would be an example. Even if I was to grant it, it would be an example of degradation, losing information. But the tailbone is anchor points for our reproductive organs. It's not vestigial.
It has muscles and nerves connected to it.
Yeah, and you can live without it, but it would make making babies a lot more difficult because you wouldn't have anything to push against, if you know what I mean, because that tailbone is anchor points for your reproductive organs.
Yeah, make a lot of things down there more difficult.
Yep.
And before you
I'm
all
new, man. Can
go
I
with that
talk?
monkey, before y'all go with that monkey argument, I just want you to understand you need to look up orphan genes before you make that argument, because according to modern evolutionary biology, it takes 3 million years for 2 interdependent mutations to become fixed in a population of hominids, and humans are considered hominids according to evolution, which means that if we divulge from a common ancestor 6 million years ago, we should have 4 interdependent mutations. Humans have 634 to 2,000 orphan genes that are found in nowhere else in nature. They're not found in any other species, and we have an entire neuron, the Rose hips neuron, that's only found in humans. So it hasn't been enough time for those things to occur if we only left a common ancestor 6 million years ago, according to evolutionary biology. And you only get 2 interdependent mutations that become fixed in the population every 3 million years. There hasn't been enough time for 634 to 2,000 genes to just pop into existence.
Okay, so your point, your point, my brother. Is it
Point is there's not
division
enough
or is
time.
it love or do you know everything?
That's the point. It hasn't been enough. No, there has
Well,
not
the
been
point
enough
is,
time. You
yeah,
can't have
the
the
point
that.
you're making.
You can't have
Okay,
genes that pop into existence. The point of evolutionary
listen,
biology
I
is you
get
can't
your
have genes pop
point.
into
I get your
existence from
point.
nowhere.
Let's stop
They're not
wasting
found anywhere
time.
else.
The host is
Guys,
good
don't
about
call
not
it- don't
wasting
call it a
Don't
waste
waste
of
time.
him, so
Don't
he's
call it a waste
explaining.
of time, guys.
Guys. Don't ask him what his point is, and then when he starts to tell you, tell him to stop wasting time and not let him get it out. That's just ridiculous. If you should have started with, I think you're wasting
do
time.
that.
Don't say what's your point, and then when he goes to answer the point, you say, I think you're just wasting
Please
time.
forgive
Don't
me.
make no
Well
sense.
taken.
I would like him to restate his point, though.
All right.
Okay, that's all.
My point is,
I'm sorry,
if
everybody.
evolutionary biology makes the claim that you get two interdependent mutations fixed in a population of hominids every 3 million years, and we have 634 to 2,000 genes that are called orphan genes because they have no precursors and they're found nowhere else in the fossil record or with any other species except humans. That is a big problem for evolution because evolution says every gene came from somewhere. There's a precursor to that gene in another species, but we have genes that they have no precursors to, and even if they had precursors, there hasn't been enough time for you to get 634 to 2,000 genes since we divulged from chimpanzees and bonobos 6 million years ago
A lot of
from a common ancestor with them.
a lot of evolution though comes from genetic mutation. So not having a
there you go.
precursor gene, starting a new gene is not.
No. Do you
on.
know what mutation is? A mutation is a change in a current gene.
Yeah,
Or
no,
it'd be a
I
precursor.
studied DNA.
What's that-
That's my
what that's
career.
called is
Yeah.
It's like a deformity.
Hold on. Let
No.
her finish. Let her
Well,
finish.
but it
Go
can.
ahead.
It starts as a mutation, right? You know, like there's an extra letter added in. Let's say, like for simplicity reasons, there's just an extra letter added in to your sequence, and that can cause a different phenotypical code to be presented. However, if that's advantageous, then it's going to be passed on to your ancestors. So maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but not having like any precursor to it isn't really evidence to say why not.
Genetic divergence.
First of all, a mutation would be a change in a current or existing gene. It would not be genes that are found literally nowhere else. There's no precursor where it mutated from this or mutated from that.
What do you mean by gene?
As a
Can you-
mutation, the mutation. You don't know what a gene is.
No, I certainly do. I'm
You said you
asking
studied
just
genetics.
because.
Well, then you don't need to ask me what a gene is if you
Sorry,
know.
no, I'm not trying to.
Because I wouldn't be talking about this.
Hey, sorry. I feel like we got off on the wrong foot. Like I'm not meaning to come at you sideways or anything. I'm
Everyone
wondering.
knows what a gene. No one up
Um,
here is talking about genes that doesn't know what a gene is.
Right. Okay.
You sound like you know it all, my friend.
Yeah, my
You got
reason for asking
Wrangler,
you wasn't because
Levi.
I thought you didn't know. I'm just asking you like based on how you're using the word gene and how it
Everyone
like
knows what a
cannot be
gene is.
created. Okay, what is it, sir?
Yes, thank
Everyone
you.
knows what a gene is. Why do you?
Okay, what is
why-
it?
No,
why do you
they
want me to
don't,
define?
smarty
You want me to be
pants.
your dictionary?
No,
Oh,
wait,
wow,
I'm
you really?
actually.
You
Hold
know
on,
it
hold
all.
on, hold
Tell
on.
me.
Wait,
I
wait,
wasn't
wait,
asking-
wait, 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 wait.
Hold up.
I didn't think that you didn't-
Stop talking over me.
I didn't
Stop
think that you
talking-
didn't know what it was,
God
but
damn
now
it.
I think you
Here
don't.
we
know
go
what it is.
again. TikTok talk over. Here we go.
Okay,
TikTok
what is
talk
it?
over.
You sound really insecure.
Guys, everybody,
Okay, what is it?
everybody,
I sound really
everybody.
insecure.
I'm going to start muting people. I don't like to do that. I like for people to jump in. Now I'm going to enforce my rules. Okay. So Azrael was in the middle of a conversation. He was answering what you said before, BB, when you stopped him. I think he's trying to get this point out. Once he gets the point out, then I will tell him he needs to answer what that is, because it is we've got to answer questions directly up here, and then we can expound. But don't interrupt the man right in the middle of him talking, and then it's going to throw his flow off. He's going to clearly want to finish what he was saying, which is what I told them to stop and let you finish too. So let him land his plane, and then he can answer your question directly.
May I say something very, very quickly? Like very quickly.
Wow! Oh my God!
You-
Like,
you-
why people interrupt people? Then
Yeah.
I need to say something really
It was
quickly
just
in
a
the middle of
question.
what
It
you were
was just a question.
saying.
My bad.
yeah. So
You don't need it. You could ask your question later.
let Azrael
Because
land
nobody wants
his.
me to ask a question in the middle of their question.
Yeah. So
God
here's what I
dang.
want to. Here's what it's going to happen. I'm going to let
You're
Azrael.
postponing this conversation further, Azrael, just to let
Alright.
you know.
Guys, one more time, and I'm going to start knocking people. I like the advantageous conversation. I do. I like it. I like it getting spirited. Let the man land his plane. and then he can answer your question directly because I'm going to enforce my rules. So nobody else talk right now. Let Azrael land his plane, then he can answer directly. Then I will allow BB to respond, and we'll see where it goes from there, okay? Go ahead, Azrael.
So I just want to say something. I just want to say something because I know it's going to get walked away from. So I'm going to say it right now. First and foremost, they don't do that because they're trying to have a conversation. They do that because they're trying to derail a train of thought because they don't want to get cooked because they don't know what they're talking about. Number one. Number two, when you talk about genes, no one's going to bring up genes who doesn't know what a gene is. A gene is a specific sequence that codes for a specific part of DNA. Some people have mutations in the gene that codes for CCR5, so their CCR5 does not come to the surface, so they're more resistant to HIV-1 because that particular receptor site doesn't come to the surface on their CD4 positive cells. So when that receptor site doesn't come to the surface because they have a mutation and they're more resistant to HIV-1. There's people who have a serine in place of a valine, and they have cystic fibrosis that's found in people who are of Caucasian descent. So you don't usually see cystic fibrosis in people of African descent where they're replacing that valine with a serine. Okay, genes can be various sizes, but they can be very tiny, can be various sizes. But when you sit there and do that and start yelling over people because you don't really want the answer. Now back to now that I've talked about what genes are, I'm going to finish what I was saying so no one has to ask me in the middle of my sentence. When you are talking about genes, you should not have 634 to 2,000 genes that are not found. There's no precursors or anything else. What they mutated from, anything that's found anywhere else in any other animal or any other being on this planet. They're only found in humans. Now, there's other species who also have orphan genes. Those genes are not found, and there's no precursors found for those genes in other species either. So when you're looking at genes that are coming out of nowhere, or you don't find any precursors to those genes, that is a huge problem for evolution. Another huge problem of evolution, which they always skip over, and almost no atheist wants to talk about, is abiogenesis. How in the world would you have chemistry evolving into biology when we've never seen chemicals turn into proteins, we've never seen chemicals turn into RNA, and we've never seen chemicals turn into a cell by themselves? We don't see elements spontaneously spawning DNA or RNA. And if anyone has a retort for that, I want you to tell me what's going to be wrong with that protein or that RNA that spawns outside of a cell of its own accord. Tell me what would be wrong with it. I land.
I would say even Darwin said if that could be proven,
I will go to you, brother.
This whole theory out the window.
But I did. BB asked him the question, and he answered it. So I want to hear her respond, and then we'll move to the next person.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think between me and AZR will be really productive. I mentioned several times that I was not trying to come for you in any way. I think that there's a difference between layman terms and how we use terms like genes and like things with evolution, which is why I was asking you that. The way that you were referring to it, I wasn't sure if we were on the same page. You proceeded to go on your huge rant. So I will let you keep going on that end, and I'm gonna. I'll go back into.
When he defined gene, was that not because I do this because I'm trying to be fair, but it always seems like I'm taking up for Azrael, but I'm also going to be fair. You literally interrupted him in the middle of him while he was trying to land that.
No,
so
wrong.
I understand him trying to say, hold on, I'm not going to answer that. So when he answered your gene question, was it not sufficient?
You mean just now? Because earlier he wasn't trying to answer. He was saying a whole bunch of, other stuff.
I would do the same thing if you're interrupting me, because literally he was trying to, I'm following the conversation. He's trying to respond to your point. And in the middle of him responding to that point, you're breaking the point to ask him a question about genes, which that question should come at the end of the point, not at the middle of it, because I do understand where he's coming from, where it's like you're trying to derail the conversation by asking silly questions. Not maybe your question wasn't silly, but that question can clearly wait to the end to determine if he knows it. But now that he did answer it adequately, is that we're just going to end it there?
So what I'm going to say is I think that clarifying questions are a little bit different than interrupting. I apologize, AZR, if you felt as if I was interrupting you or derailing the conversation. I personally think that's a little bit silly. I felt like it was obvious that I wasn't. I was just trying to ask a clarifying question and then getting defensive about the clarifying question kind of told me everything I need to know. And on top of that, he gave really great examples of genes. However, there wasn't really a definition that he gave, but I don't believe that he doesn't know what genes are. I never did. I just wanted to make sure that we were on the same page about what that would
That's
be.
kind of the problem that I have is when people come in here and now you're saying you said something that you clearly said. Your exact words were this. At first, I didn't think that you actually didn't know what genes were, but now I actually do. That's verbatim what you stated. And now
Oh, yeah, no, when he was dodging the question, yeah, I absolutely was like, wait, I actually now I don't think you do. And then but you're asking me to respond. So after he responded and gave me his examples, now I believe that he knows what genes are. So is that not like?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So he explained. He didn't give me the definition of genes. Totally fine. I mean, that's kind of like I just wanted to make sure that we weren't basing it off layman terms.
I'm paraphrasing. He said it was a specific DNA sequence that codes for a specific thing, and then he gave the specific things he was talking about. So,
all right, I actually I'm gonna be honest. I didn't hear that portion of it. I heard the maybe I was. Sorry, caught up with everything else going on. I apologize. In that case,
no problem. It's okay. I'm not gonna like hold your feet to the fire if you didn't hear something. That's not the end.
Yeah,
of it.
I mean, no worries. Yeah. Anyways, like I said, I certainly believe that he knows what that is now. I'm gonna jump in later probably, or he can like keep going on what he was on about. I didn't mean to derail anything, but
you didn't derail anything. There's nothing wrong with clarifying questions. You know, and sometimes we get a little bit defensive because, you know, a lot of people's talking at one time. And so it gets to, don't take it personal. Right. So the reason why I do this, BB, before you leave is number one is I want to strengthen the faith of the Christians. I want to show them that what the Bible says is literally true and scientifically accurate. And there's no reason to not believe it. And then secondly, if you're not saved, I want to get you saved. So my next question to you before you roll out is are you a Christian? And if not, do you know about Jesus?
Remy. Sorry, my dog's. Remy, go inside. No, I wasn't about to leave, but because I kind of wanted to stick around if that's okay. I mean, you can drop me if you want somebody else to come up.
No, it's
I
fine.
kind of wanted to stick around and see what happens, but no, I'm not necessarily against anything that you are saying, but I am so for the opposite side, like proving evolution. I'm really passionate about that. That's like I said, I study DNA, so I'm pretty that's my point, but I'm not I don't have any negative thoughts of your biblical pretenses. So
all right, well, yeah, stay up, give me a follow, and I'm every time I talk to you, that's going to be my goal. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to put it on Front Street. Give me a follow. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them best I can, and I'm going to keep trying to share Christ with you. All right, Philo, you were in here next. What you got, brother?
Oh, I was just like thinking that, the father of evolution, Charles Darwin, or one of the, fathers of it, wrote, I think it was Origin of Species. And when he wrote that book, he did not have the type of microscopes that we currently have today. And I believe he even said in that book that if he never witnessed, but it's all based on assumption that single cell can, their genes can change or evolve. And he said if that theory can be disproven, then his whole theory of evolution is no longer valid.
May I say something? Genes in your body, due to a thing called genetic divergence, can change.
Did you land, brother? Was that all you was going to say?
Yeah, that's all I was going to say.
Okay.
And God bless everybody.
Yeah, man.
And that's why we have these new genes that I don't know exactly what his arguments were, but as Rael was saying that we have these new genes with no precursors. That's because of genetic divergence, how your genes can change over your lifespan.
Again, I'm not taking up for him, but we got to be able to follow the conversation. The point he was making is not that they're not new genes. You're inferring that. The point is that they're orphan genes, meaning that there's no precursors to them, meaning that they're only found in humans. There's nothing new about that. It's just stating that there's no precursor like you would expect if evolution was true. You would expect to see the precursor of these genes. Right?
Yes, through genetic divergence, there is no precursor.
Okay, well, there
Your
would be
genes can
evolution
change.
supposed to be true. That's his point. Can you
No,
contend
no,
with that?
that's not what happened. That's not what happened. The issue is this, and I'm gonna say it again because I know y'all like jumping over it. You all don't have any explanation for how proteins, RNA, DNA, or any of these things come about. When the elements are present, you get bigger molecules, you get monomers, but you don't get life. You don't get proteins coming from the elements. You don't get RNA coming from the elements. I would like one of you people who believe in evolution to explain how chemistry evolved into biology. When we put the elements together, we get bigger molecules, but we never get proteins, RNA, or DNA coming from the elements. And I want to know what would be wrong with a protein molecule or an RNA molecule that spawned from the elements. I want to know what would be wrong with them if you all truly do know biology like you claim.
Structural complexity, literally the only reason.
I know the answer.
Of DNA, RNA, and proteins.
The answer to that is that if it happened out here in the wild, the oxygen would cause it to oxygenate, and it would degrade, so it wouldn't happen. It couldn't happen in the presence of oxygen. If you're going to say that it happened in the ocean, anything over 5% acidity will not allow it to get together either. So it wouldn't happen in that case either.
5% acidity. You don't think there's a place in the ocean at that? Like 5% acidity?
No.
I'm talking about millions of years here, like billions of years.
No, it doesn't matter how much time. Time can't. Hold on. Time can't be your hero because here's the problem. For RNA, anything with a pH above 6 will destroy RNA, or a pH below 5. If you have anything that has salt or magnesium ions also destroys RNA. Sunlight destroys RNA, and plain old good old water destroys RNA. RNA is actually destroyed by hydrolysis. Proteins, we've never seen that happen, but if a protein was to form outside of a cell, that protein would be unfolded and non-specific. An unfolded protein would be in its primary form, which is the amino acid sequence, but it would not be in its functional tertiary form. That protein would literally be unfolded and non-specific, which means what would it interact with? Because proteins have a certain active site that they have to interact with. So no, that's not how it works. And those individual amino acids you love to talk about, they never just bind together on their own. Amino acids are bound by living systems, but amino acids by themselves do not just bind together into proteins. Literally does not happen. Because if that did happen, when they did the Mueller, if they did, no, RNA is destroyed by hydrolysis. Was no one listening? Y'all don't know what hydrolysis is? It's when water breaks things. And the average pH of water is 7. The average pH of water is 7. And the pH above any pH above 6 will break RNA. And water also just breaks RNA of its own accord. So does sunlight.
Freshwater ponds, not just fully submerged water.
I just want to put a quick caveat in there, if you don't mind. I'm sure you know this. You sound like you know exactly what you're talking about. But when you're talking about it, for clarity, maybe with everybody else, and how RNA can degrade, those are certainly conditions you can put RNA in to degrade. But just like with DNA, like with extraction, literally my job, I do it every day, DNA extraction. The chemicals that we are using may be present already in our bodies, but our bodies also have a cellular repair system. So it's not always like the environments that you put them in, they immediately degrade. It's the situations as well.
Did you not say a cellular repair system? If you're claiming RNA world, it wouldn't be inside of a cell. There's no cellular repair system out in the open of nature, number one. So there's nothing to repair the RNA. Number two, when you're talking about being destroyed, I don't mean destroyed in an hour or two. I mean destroyed rather quickly. But but the other thing is the odds of RNA assembling outside of a cell is 1 in 10 to the power of 75, and the odds of a protein assembling outside of a cell is 1 in 10 to the power of 272. And a mathematician who was also an atheist actually worked out that anything with less of a 1 in 10 to the power of 50 chance wouldn't happen in the natural universe anyway. And that guy was an atheist.
I'd like
He
to see
wasn't
the
even
variables
a
on that,
Christian.
because how can you account for how many puddles there were on Earth for billions of years?
Okay, so the statement you just made lets me know you don't understand anything about what I just said. I said, number one, the odds of it happening is 1 in 10 to the power of 75. The odds of it happens 1 in 10 to the power of
What are the
272.
variables? What variables did you use to calculate those odds?
However, if you did get a protein or an RNA to form outside
couple
of
hours. It's
a
4
cell,
hours.
that oh my god,
Guys, let him land.
if you did get an RNA, if you did get an RNA to
hours.
form outside of a cell, if you did get an RNA to form outside of a cell, it would be destroyed by water, sunlight. It would be destroyed by any pH above 6. It would be destroyed by magnesium ions. It would be destroyed by any salt. I named all the ways it was destroyed, and then someone goes right and tells me water again. A pond is water. A puddle is water. Water destroys RNA. Were you not listening to what I said?
Yeah, maybe the RNA was already inside of a cellular membrane. How's that grab you?
Where did that come from, brother? You can't just say it started off.
Because
Life started off with life. That's our position, not yours.
Sure, because there could have been precursors to RNA, like peptide nucleic acids or glycol nucleic acids. You don't have to go from molecules right to RNA. There could be precursors.
How does that single cell form though? Where do you get the single cell from?
Yeah, so once you have self-replicating molecules, it could have been protected in a mud bubble until there was some kind of membrane built up outside of it.
I'll give you all the ingredients to life that you could possibly need. How do you get it to go into a single-celled organism?
What I'm saying is that you could have self-replicating molecules in a protected environment. Let's say in a puddle, in a mud bubble. Okay, you've got the self-replication going on in there. That can go on for thousands of generations until there's some kind of rough, primitive cellular membrane to encase what later would become RNA.
Yeah. I just want to destroy everything. Phospholipids are water soluble, so you wouldn't get phospholipids just forming around the RNA to protect it, because phospholipids is what you claim what a membrane is made of. See, this is what I'm saying. You all don't understand biology. The cell is a fluid mosaic model. That means that the phospholipids arrange themselves around these proteins that protrude through the surface of the cell and receptor sites that protrude through the surface of the cell. And that fluid mosaic model is these proteins are flowing through the fluid mosaic that is the cell membrane. However, those individual phospholipids are actually water soluble and would never have formed of their own accord to protect that RNA. RNA would have been out in the liquid. And by the way, before you try to tell me RNA is stable, just remember we had to put a particular C19 vax inside of a lipid nanoparticle to protect it from the water in your goddamn body. The only reason the RNA in your cells can stay together is because there are proteins that protect that RNA and also protect messenger RNAs as they're being carried by kinesin to your ribosomes. There are specific proteins that protect the RNA molecule as it's traveling to the ribosome by kinesin, so that the freaking water in your inside your cells doesn't destroy the RNA.
That is a result of evolution.
Quick question: what is the stable zone? What is the pH stable zone for RNA?
I know it's destroyed by pHs above 6, and it's destroyed by pHs below 5.
So the stable zone is 7 to 8. So if it's above that, if it's below that, that's where it can get destroyed.
I just literally said it. You can literally Google it right now. Any pH above 6 destroys RNA. Okay, you're not telling the truth. I don't know why you're lying.
What do you mean? I mean, you want me to give you
pH is above 6 destroy RNA.
Can you remind me where you got those numbers that you calculated the odds of RNA coming into existence?
Where I got the numbers, or where those numbers came from? They came from a calculation by a mathematician.
Who?
Not me.
Who?
Not
I
me.
want to know
You can Google
because
it.
I
You
want
don't
to.
need me to Google it. You don't
Okay.
need me to Google it, and don't ask me questions as though you're coming from a place of scientific knowledge when you didn't have any answer for anything scientific I said. The only thing you had was a question for me. You didn't give any argument against what I'm saying scientifically.
I did
And
give
the
you an
other guy's
argument.
just lying. Everyone knows the pH. Everyone knows the pH that destroys RNA is 6. Anyone who knows biology knows pH is above 6 destroy RNA.
So you won't show your math.
So hold on.
You're refusing to present your evidence.
Let me just. I can't turn my camera around because whenever I do that, Google now bans me. I used to show the video of Mary Schweitzer and stuff, so it pings my channel. But I literally just typed in to see what it said. It says this is what my prompt was. What is the stable zone for RNA pH levels? First thing that popped up is 4.0 to 5, which is literally what Azrael said. That's right in the range of what he said.
No, it's 7
No,
to
no.
8.
He said. Yeah.
Just brother,
said
I
it would
don't.
be destroyed.
This is
that's an
y'all's
even wider.
conversation because I'm not big. I mean, I know a little bit, but clearly not enough to be hanging with Azrael right now. But he made a claim. You come up and said that his claim was wrong, so I just Googled it, like you said, and it says exactly what Azrael said. I mean, if you got a problem with it, I don't know. That's Google, but I just literally that's my prompt. What is the stable zone for RNA pH levels? That's what I typed in, and literally what I got is 4.0 to 5.0, which is literally what the man just said.
Okay, but if you go on, it says that the pH 6.5 to 7.5 to balance structural integrity with experimental utility. So which are you referencing here? Because you were saying that it degrades anything that's above 6, right?
Okay, I have a question. Say your zone again.
So what I'm referencing,
he said 6.0 to 7.5. I think that's what he said.
Yeah,
well,
it's
this is what
ideal
we're
for
talking
long-term
about.
stability.
You're talking about
No. It literally says pH. The pH is any pH above 6 will destroy RNA. So we're gonna type in. Somebody
Cite your source, dude.
Do pH is above 6? Potion Castle, you've already debated me before. You don't know science. Stop
Cite
pretending
your
as
source,
you do.
and you won't
All right?
cite your sources.
You don't know anything about science at all, and you're
let
not
me
a
just-
scientist.
Well,
Can I show you what I'm?
two of us are finding
can I show you
conflicting
my-
data with your claims.
Can I explain what I'm saying though, just really quickly?
I'm asking
pH 1 to
this
2.
one question. I'm asking this. We don't need a whole lesson. I'm asking a simple question. Do pHs above 6 destroy RNA?
No, it literally says on my screen right now that that's for long-term stability, 6.0 to 7.5.
Right.
Yeah, I recognize that for RNA, I mean it is like slightly more alkaline, but it does have the hydroxide group. So that would not make it stable under 6.0 pH.
None of. I literally said, is RNA destroyed by pHs above 6?
Yeah, cite your source
The
for
average
the
pH of
claim
water
that
is
is
7.
Okay.
So
it shouldn't be explained the way that you're explaining it. Here's what I have here. Excuse me, just for a second. pH 1 to 2, rapid acid catalyzed destruction. pH less than 4, acid hydrolysis occurs. pH 12 to 13, very fast, near complete degradation within minutes. pH greater than 10, rapid hydrolysis begins. pH 7 to 8 is a stable zone. RNA is most stable near neutral, slightly alkaline. Comprende?
What's kind of the topic of debate, saying like RNA will be destroyed above a certain pH? Above 6, you're saying RNA is destroyed above 6?
I'm saying if it's a pH above 6, RNA is destroyed, and literally you can Google what I'm saying.
I know.
So
I work in a lab where we synthesize DNA and we sequence it, and we resuspend the RNA and the DNA in pH 7.5 and pH 8.
Does it? You leave it there?
Yeah, that's how we store it.
That's exactly what I said.
No.
I'm not even a scientist.
No. You do not leave RNA in a.
You said you froze it. Is that what
Lord
you
Ford,
said?
DM me. I
Because,
wanna know.
I
what
mean,
you're
ideally, yeah, you freeze it after you, but we work with it in that solution.
Okay.
That's not leaving it there, then, is it? Kind of hard for the pH to attack it if it's frozen.
What do you
I
mean
mean, that's
pH to
what we
attack
use.
it?
That's the buffer that we use,
Listen,
though.
again,
when we
this
deal with
is.
DNA, RNA.
I wouldn't go down this. This
We
is
store it frozen. I mean, a lot of things like
okay,
you wouldn't
brother.
store
But I
it
mean,
at ambient
that is
temperature.
a very important point to make, right? I could put it in pH, 100, but if I flash freeze it within less than a second, then clearly it's not going to attack it, right? I mean, so the point matters. So
But the
when you say
RNA, RNA is not stable below 7, so we don't
I'm
resuspend
just-
below 7.
I get it. I'm being over pedantic. My point is that if you when you make your claim that this is the way we store it, but then you say we freeze it, clearly the pH can't attack it if it's frozen.
I feel like
Right.
that's still
We
important.
use
because
that
why would
pH though
why would they
because
store
it's
it?
safely resuspended in that buffer without being denatured or destroyed. I
Right.
mean, that's the working solution that we use for DNA and RNA.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, look, this is like I said, this is not my field.
I'm not totally going against your point, but your
yeah,
prompt,
I got
by
it,
the
yeah.
way. I was just kind of chiming in about the whole pH thing, just because
I
that's
got
what
you,
we
yeah.
use.
I have a question for you, Lord. It's funny calling you Lord. My Lord, I want to ask you, is it true that amino acids cannot form on their own?
Well, I mean, I've heard theories about like soap bubbles and like electricity, and somehow, I mean, they've derived amino acids using electricity and the building blocks before.
Yeah, the Miller.
And we also found amino acids on asteroids.
Yeah, there has been amino acids found on asteroids, and the Miller experiment, if I'm not mistaken, created amino acids.
Correct.
Well, I was just bringing that question up because Azrael was saying that amino acids can't form on their own. At least that's what I heard.
I think he was saying proteins and RNA couldn't form on their own. And my claim is that, the odds of life emerging from non-life through complex chemistry might be extremely, extremely unlikely. But if you have a primitive Earth and you have literally billions or trillions of puddles where chemistry is happening, molecules are self-assembling, bumping into each other for literally billions of years. So you have billions of chemistry sets running for billions of years. It's then extremely unlikely things can happen, including a self-replicating molecule beginning to propagate in a puddle that's protected by some kind of primitive membrane that later develops into like a primitive cell wall. Like to me, that's a much simpler explanation for how life can emerge from non-life than a extremely complex mind without a body who is directing everything.
I agree with that, and there's also
that's a faith statement, though.
block. Well,
I just
there's
want to make
also-
sure that we go.
well,
That's
well,
a faith
let's talk about
statement. None of
faith.
that's been. Hold on 1 second. That is a faith-based statement because none of everything. I mean, we've got labs now that can isolate these things, and you want me to believe that this happened out here in the wild under a rock, and we can't replicate it in a lab, brother. So
Right, but
Sorry,
you're wanting me to.
we can. There's a lot of experiments. I can look at the specific
hold on.
names of them, but I do not know them off the top of my head. But I think what they are saying, what this person is saying, is that the simple molecules, the organic building blocks, if you will, that are required to make things like RNA, like that earlier person was talking about, that's a lot more understandable than it just popping up out of nowhere. And when we're talking about faith, I I certainly don't have like all of the understanding. I cannot tell you with complete certainty
Before we move on too much, did you say that there? Because I didn't hear exactly what you said because I was talking. Did you say that they have
The
experiments where they've replicated life? Is that what you said?
What do you mean replicated life? Because you said
biogenesis.
You said, well, when you say biogenesis, are you talking about just like the building blocks like amino acids and?
Come on, baby.
No, biogenesis is life coming from non-life.
I got it, guys. Amino acids is not defined as life. So when I say abiogenesis, I don't have to redefine it. I'm talking about life.
Okay, so but like the simple
I'll just say
molecules
no.
that can create
I'll just say
life.
no. We don't know exactly how.
Hold on.
Guys. I just
I'm trying to answer your question.
Hold on, guys. I just wanted a clarifying question because I literally did not hear what she said. So I'm not doing this as a gotcha. Or if she made the claim that they're replicating life in a lab, then I'm going to have a problem with that. But I don't want to put something on her that I was unclear of hearing. So, BB, I want to make sure that you're clear on this before we move on. is your statement that they're replicating life in a lab? Because I may have misheard you, and I don't want to straw man you.
So, like I said, the simple molecules that can create life, and what I mean by that are I think I called them something like building blocks earlier.
Amino acids.
So the things that experiments can spontaneously form are things like amino acids, obviously like sugars, lipids, and I think even nucleotides now. But I would have to double check on that. But I wasn't claiming that they made DNA somewhere.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is this. Everyone started yelling and got really excited. I just checked on the literal internet, and it does not say what you guys said. RNA is destroyed by pHs above 6. Then I also checked. First, no, I don't think I did check. Because I was like, is there new research? Am I missing something? No, there's no new research. The RNA is still destroyed by pHs above 6. Then I checked. So I don't know why you all got together and lied. Then, by the way, when y'all said amino acids, I don't know why anyone brought those up. What makes something an amino acid? Do y'all know what makes something an amino acid? Do y'all even know what amino acids are? Because I know what an amino acid is, and it's not alive. So what makes it an amino acid?
Yeah, a protein's not alive either. We're not claiming that.
So
Also, what are you getting the RNA thing from?
So an amino acid is an amine group, NH2, attached to a carbon. On the other side is a hydrogen, and above it is the COOH, and below it is the R group that defines it as what type of amino acid it is. So amino acids are not alive. So
nobody said that they were.
And they don't assemble into proteins of their own accord, and nucleotides don't assemble into RNA of their own accord.
Yeah, you're drawing conclusions, and
okay,
that's
well, the first part was
first
just wrong. No,
that's
RNA is not
100%.
destroyed above pH.
That's 100.
It's just not true.
The 100%. The 100% claim of abiogenesis is that amino acids assembled into a protein, or that nucleotides self-assembled into an RNA. That's 100% the claim of RNA world and protein world.
No, that's the investigation of abiogenesis, is how RNA or proteins were self-assembled by amino acids. But hold on, I want you to explain. Hold on, Azrael, can you please explain why the Thermo Fisher RNA storage recommendations say that the recommended pH is 5.5 to 6.5?
They're storing it because they're storing it at freezing. They're storing it at freezing. That's why it's that. They're not storing it.
Why does it also say for normal? Why does it also say for normal?
Because I answer your question, and you ask me another question after I answer your question.
So it generally
I answer your question, and you ask me another one.
So I do.
So,
hold on. I do. Wait. Hold on. Wait.
I'm
gonna let me control this, because that is absolutely true. So you ask him a question. I assumed you were setting something up when you asked him that question. He said it's for freezing. Do you have a response for that, or because I'll be honest with you, y'all are talking stuff that I don't know, so I'm trying to follow.
Sure. So that recommendation is for long-term storage, which yes, they recommend extremely low temperatures, but they also say, so first of all, his claim that merely pH alone is not going to destroy the RNA. There's another factor there, which is the temperature. But that same lab also says that for generally safe for routine laboratory work, not at freezing, that pH 5.5 to 8.0 is that the degradation from pH alone is relatively slow in this range.
Wait, relatively slow? Does that mean that it's still destroyed just slowly? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, it means that his claim that it's immediately destroyed is untrue.
Well, hold on.
We're talking about the acceleration of degradation.
I get it, but wait. Let's again.
About millions of years.
I'm trying to follow. So you correct me. I don't want to straw man anyone. And again, I'm not trying to take up for Azrael just because he agrees with me. But I'm hearing a couple of key words there. One, you asked the pH question, and then you said, why do they recommend this? He gave you the answer, and then you jumped off of it very, very quickly. And I had to come back in and say, well, I don't understand your point. If you knew that it was at freezing, then I don't understand the point of you asking that question, other than you just thought maybe he didn't know. And
no, because first I was just addressing the pH level.
Fair enough. Okay, but but that's what I perceived out of it. Now you're stating that a pH above 6 does destroy it. It just destroys it slowly. I haven't heard him. I've heard his claim
But
is
you
this.
need time for things to evolve.
Okay, y'all, hold on. Correct me if I'm wrong, because again, I don't know this, but Azrael said it, the range was between 4 and 5. I looked at it according to Google. Again, I don't know this. Google says yes. Now you're telling me that he's wrong on the claim that anything above 6 destroys it. I think you're adding in that preference that it destroys it like this. That's not the impression that I got. I got the impression that it destroys it. And now you're saying that, yes, it does destroy it. It just destroys it a little bit, like slowly.
No, it's just an incomplete explanation.
Okay.
I'm also confused where on Google. Are you able to share your screen, host?
Well, now I can't. I wished I could, but TikTok starts hitting me for that.
Yeah, I went in and tried to Google it myself, but I recognize, like I was saying earlier, like the
I am literally just Googling it because I don't know. But I Googled what he said about the what I even gave the prompt that I used. But I just want him to answer this right here because I get confused. I'm trying not to get confused.
Can I offer this?
I'm confused because 3 people on here have Googled
the argument
at
first is that he was wrong about the pH of 6. I've heard that 15 times. And now it sounds like we're almost conceding a little bit and saying that he's not wrong. It just does it slowly. But I don't.
I think we've been very clear. I was very clear earlier. Here's a better explanation. RNA is actually stable up to around neutral pH 7. The concern is alkaline conditions. Really above pH 9 or 10 is where the rapid breakdown happens. pH 6 is just a conservative buffer for long-term lab storage, not the actual degradation threshold. So no one is disagreeing with his blanket statement that it just that it degrades above 6. Of course, there is a threshold where it starts to increasingly degrade faster. Okay, so that is the point that we're all trying to make here, and even Lord below me, he's suggesting that it gets stored between that 7 and 8, which was originally suggested by me.
All right, so if that's what we're saying now, I'm going to be intellectually honest and say I was not getting that from y'all to begin with. The thing that I got before is he said pH level 6 destroys it, and y'all kept pushing back saying, get your source, get your source, get your source, you're wrong. And now it sounds like we're conceding a little bit and saying, yeah, it does it, just not in the way that he's saying.
Well, that's because, it sounds like he's talking about like really long-term storage. Like this is extremely different. And then you talk about the buffers that are associated with it. So it's not quite as straight. It's a little bit more nuanced than I think that you're taking it as. And I don't work with this specifically, so I also did Google it. But yeah, it sounds like based on the hydroxide groups, the RNA cannot be alkaline. But to the range that he was saying, genuinely was just like incorrect. He was saying above 6 would destroy it immediately. All of us heard that, and that's just not true. Still not true.
Can I ask a quick question? Are we talking about the whole pH storage right now because of like people recovering RNA and DNA from like dinosaur fossils? Like, why are we talking about the storage conditions, I guess?
Yeah, they are recovering it from dinosaurs. That's a good point.
Well also,
I guess is that like proof that, if they can recover RNA and DNA from dinosaurs, is that like going against the prompt? I guess essentially, is that what you're arguing, that it'd be destroyed and there's no way to recover it?
I think he's just saying that RNA is really unstable.
Well,
so if we're saying that was a precursor to DNA and somehow gave birth to cellular life, that would be problematic because it would be destroyed by the environment. But
let me make my claim very clear that yes, if they're finding it in dinosaur bones that's 65 million years old, or they're finding it in bacteria that's 250 million years old, we understand the DNA half-life, and the fact that they're finding it in dinosaurs and in 250 million year old bacteria, then my claim is exactly that it can't last that long, and that would prove a young Earth, meaning that the dinosaur is more than likely unalived in the flood 6,500 years ago, according to the Bible, and not 65 million years ago.
In the right conditions, though, the DNA and RNA could last that long. Not necessarily in like a usable form, but in like a fossilized form that we could tell the structure of.
Sure, give me the mechanism that protects it or gets it out to 65 million.
Extremely cold and dry conditions will fossilize it.
Well, that's
not. Are you talking about the soft tissue and the T-Rex?
Yes, that too. And no, it won't. It doesn't go out to 65 million years.
Not to be workable, but I mean to be readable, you could read the structure. It's
No.
not like it's not intact, no, but it's fossilized.
No, it doesn't say it, but it's not fossilized because you still have the chemical markers that still attached to it. And in the 250 million year old, they were actually able to revive the entire bacteria. So it's still absolutely readable and workable.
They
because
revived it, but they probably like resequenced it and cloned it. They didn't like revive the actual
No, they
DNA from the
revived.
thing.
Yep, they absolutely revived the actual DNA. I can give you the source material. Yep.
No,
They didn't use
from
PCR
my
at all. They didn't like amplify the DNA at all.
Well, according to them, what they did is they looked at the salt layer, and it was like 1,000 foot down, and it was supposed to be in a salt layer that's 250 million years old. They brought up the salt crystal that had some of the prebiotic ocean with encapsed in one of the salt crystal bubbles, if you will. Still had the ocean within it. They took that out, put that inside of a petri dish, and it started to grow, showing that the bacteria that was inside of it had to be 250 million years old if you go with evolution or the geologic column. Now, clearly, I don't grant that. I think that this happened during the flood 6,500 years ago, and that's why you're still able to revive the bacteria.
Yeah, I could see like the timing could be wrong. You know, like our ways of telling how old things are could be flawed. You know, they talk about like carbon-14 dating being like a flawed mechanism of like, it's not really indicative of like when something was. There's multiple factors that could change those ratios.
All your
am I hallucinating here? But what I'm hearing is that RNA or DNA was magnified or found from dinosaur fossils. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever heard that.
So there was a T-Rex where they found soft tissue inside of it, but the people who made the discovery also wrote a paper talking about a chemical method to preserve that soft tissue. I didn't know that they're claiming to have recovered fragments of DNA or RNA from there.
This is why I want to do one at a time, because you say so much stuff. So yes, they did find the soft tissue. That's not what I'm talking about. You said in the soft tissue paper that they come up with models to get it out longer. That's factually inaccurate. Go to the papers. There's been two. Both of the papers literally say this is not the mechanism. The very first words of Mary Schweitzer's iron in the blood study, which you're bringing up right now, which is chemical cross-linking, iron cross-linking. That's what you're bringing up right now. The very first words of the abstract state that the persistence of soft tissue in Mesozoic fossils is not explained by our current degradation models. The second paper says we have no method to get this excellent preservation. So when you're saying things like that, that's why I want to attack that, because you're putting so much stuff out there that we're going back and forth. But the chemical rate to get it to go to 65 million years, according to the paper that you're citing, says this is not the method. I can take you there if you want. There's another paper. This is also done by Mary Schweitzer. The name of this paper is called Evidence of Proteins and Chromosomes and Chemical Markers of DNA in Exquisitely Preserved Dinosaur Cartilage. This was done in 2020. That's the name of the paper. What they did is they took two chemicals. You guys might know more about the chemicals than I do, but it's called DAPI and propidium isolate, PI. Evidently, these two chemicals react to, they bond to the curved helix structure of DNA. So what they did is they went to the nucleus of this, what they considered to be, they thought was a dinosaur cell, clearly in the soft tissue. They said, okay, this looks like a dinosaur cell. And I'm giving you all the information because I can't turn the camera around because literally TikTok bans me. That's why I'm giving you all the thing. They got pictures of a cell dividing. They got pictures of the what they consider to be the nucleus where the DNA is housed. And they put these two chemicals in there. They're supposed to react to DNA. And guess what? They reacted. And it literally says in the paper that it has to, these are not sports compound within the cells, chemically considered with DNA, that the material is double-stranded and has a minimum length of 6 base pairs. So it has to be, that means it's readable, at least by 6 base pairs. Probably not a lot, I'm not saying that, but it's still clearly connected, it's still double-stranded, and it has at least 6 base pairs. So that's DNA, my friends.
Well, no, this is collagen.
Can I read a line from the first paper?
This is collagen protein, just for the record. This has nothing to do with DNA or RNA.
Which paper are you looking at? Because I just gave you two. So are you talking about the one that I just cited, the evidence of proteins, chromosomes, and chemical markers of DNA? Is that because that's clearly DNA? When it says DNA, I believe it's DNA.
Is that the 2020 paper?
That's the 2020 paper. Evidence, and this is the name of the paper, Evidence of Proteins, Chromosomes, and Chemical Markers of DNA in Exquisitely Preserved Dinosaur Cartilage, 2020.
No, I'm talking about the one from 2005 in Science.
Okay,
That's 68 million year old
okay,
dinosaur
that's
femur.
different. Okay, so we're talking about two different things. So that's why I didn't want a shotgun. So the DNA chemicals the DNA markers was found in 2020. Same scientist, Mary Schweitzer. But if you want to go back to the dinosaur collagen, yes, I never claimed that they're finding DNA in that one. That one they're finding collagen, which is endogenous to the dinosaur. And again, we know what the half-life of collagen is. And read the very first words of the abstract. It literally tells you that if you read the iron cross-linking one, it literally says this is not the mechanism to get it out to 65 million years.
Wait, I'm confused because it says, I'm reading it. It says we hypothesize that this exceptional cellular preservation extended to the molecular level and had molecular features in common with extant avian cartilage.
Yeah, okay. So you're reading the Evidence of Proteins and Chemicals, which in the DNA. Is that the one you're reading?
Yeah, the 2020 abstract.
Right. Yes. But so which one are you going with? Are you going with the iron cross-linking? Because that's a separate paper, brother. That's right. We're getting confused because we're going to two different places.
Yeah, I'm confused because it sounded like you said both papers deny that they have come up with an idea about how this preservation could have happened.
No,
but in both of them, they literally say, like in the 2006 one, it says a two-part mechanism involving first cross-linking of molecular components and subsequent mineralization is proposed to explain the surprising presence of still soft elements in fossil bone. That's in 2005.
Yeah, it's proposed, but it's not that. That's it. If you go to the very first paper that she did with the soft tissue, the name of it is where's it at?
Soft tissue and cellular preservation in vertebrate skeletal elements.
No, not that one. She did one in soft tissue. A role iron and oxygen chemistry play in preserving soft tissue cells in molecules from deep time.
Can I share the exact quote from that 2020 paper? It says, quote, "We caution that only the sequencing of the material reactive to both PI and DAPI can confirm that it is dinosaurian in origin." This is basically saying that they can't confirm that it's dinosaur DNA without sequencing.
No. We caution that only sequencing of the material reactive in both PI and DAPI can confirm that it is dinosaur in origin. Yeah, they're saying
but they're saying that they can't confirm that it's actual dinosaur DNA without sequencing.
No, if you actually, okay, yeah, so they haven't sequenced it, yes, and they're being cautious, no doubt, but if you continue to read on down,
it's not confirmed.
Okay,
that's the point.
Continue to read on down in the conclusion. Contamination is not plausible. They're sitting there telling you that this is not contamination. They literally go on to tell you that there's no contamination, so what DNA sequence could it be for if there's no contamination?
How could contamination not be plausible, though? I mean, it's always plausible.
That's what the conclusion is. Go to the paper right there. Like I said, I really wish I could turn.
And like 6 base pairs, like how would they determine that that's not contamination and from the sample?
That's
if
what.
It's just 6 base pairs.
You read the paper, so continue it on down. It's if you go to the conclusion, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's
I have it here.
Fourth paragraph. And in the middle of it, it starts. Contamination is not a plausible explanation in this case, and to this day, a plausible preservation of original proteins and DNA in deep time has not been conservatively estimated with data. So they're telling you that I mean, I don't think nobody is ruling.
How would a fossil not be contaminated, though? I mean, where do you find a fossil? It's surrounded by contamination when you find it. So I don't understand how you'd free a sample of contamination.
It's what the paper says, brother. It's not.
I was talking to the guy that's in the chat. I'm agreeing with you on that part. You know that seems pretty ridiculous.
Well, probably
one thing about the bacteria,
the sample
though,
was
is that
isolated inside the material, inside the bone.
Yeah.
And there's no way that contamination can penetrate a bone when it's been buried that long.
Well,
I mean, they're just saying. I don't know. The paper's saying it's not plausible.
Let me tell you why I don't think it would be. I don't think anything should be absolutes. I would agree with that. I think you should use caution and not make absolutes. But when you go to a cell that you consider to be endogenous to the dinosaur, you find a quote unquote fossilized cell. You go to the nucleus of that cell where the DNA is housed. And then you find DNA in it, and then you say, well, it has to be contaminated from something. So now I have to believe that some other DNA went in and contaminated the nucleus of a dinosaur cell. That doesn't make any sense. So is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Very, very, very not probable. I would have to believe that something else invaded the nucleus of a dinosaur fossil and then injected its own DNA in there. I think that's very implausible. I think the evidence that we should go with is clearly that this is dinosaur DNA.
I want to read the conclusion, though, to just go against what you seem to be absolute in that this is conclusive DNA. It says, quote, the identification of chemical markers of DNA. That's important. The identification of chemical markers of DNA in this Hippochrysaurus suggests that it may preserve much longer than originally proposed. Our data suggests the preserved nuclear material in this Hippochrysaurus was in a condensed state at the time of death of the organism. This quote, chemical markers of DNA, basically says that it's not DNA itself. So again, this paper does not conclusively state that it is DNA or RNA, and that's what I want to hammer home.
We propose that you stopped reading right there for some reason. If you continue to read, it says we propose that the DNA condition may be favorable process to its fossilization. So
I'm saying they found DNA.
Right. So they say that the DNA is not. It's literally exactly what they're saying.
No, it's not.
They're saying chemical markers of DNA.
Fine. I want you to continue to read what you just read. Then you stopped right there for some reason. Continue reading. You only got 2 more lines.
Well, it's the relevant quote. So I mean,
yeah, we're going to stop. We propose
I'll
that
read the whole thing.
DNA. What does that mean? If it says that we're not finding DNA, then why does it say DNA right there?
I'm confused as to why you're arguing for finding dinosaur DNA in the fossils, though. You know, like I thought, like are they not millions of years old? Are they saying that
we got the half-life of DNA. DNA cannot last 65 million years old.
Host, do you want me to read the whole conclusion?
No, you can read. No, I just want to know why he stopped at the word DNA.
Well,
we can get the whole quote.
But the first sentence says identification of chemical markers of DNA.
Right. Yeah. No. Look. I'm not adding to what the paper says. My conclusion is different than Mary Schweitzer's. Mary Schweitzer's not a young Earth creationist. You guys need to understand that. Like, me and her's not going to agree on a lot. And they're being cautious and haven't announced that it's DNA. I can clearly read to this paper and I can say that clearly this is DNA. Now they're calling it DNA markers, but they also are referring to this as DNA. They clearly are. But if you want to say, have they announced DNA? No, they haven't. But I don't need her to announce that for me to read her paper and see that these chemical markers that attach to DNA that's found in the nucleus of a cell is come on, man, it's DNA. You take chemicals that react to DNA that light up like in a black light with DNA. That's not what it does, but just to make so everybody else can follow. If I put this chemical that reacts to DNA only, and it has to be at least 6 strands for the chemicals to even be able to attach to it. It has to be double-stranded in helix in nature. That's DNA. I go to the nucleus of a dinosaur that's endogenous to the dinosaur. I ruled out contamination. I squirt the chemicals in there and I get the reaction. What is it? You have to come up, even though I don't care if Mary Schweitzer's not announcing it or not, you have to now tell me what is the probability of it not being DNA, because it's clearly DNA. And we ain't even got to the paper to where they revived the 250 million year old. But so, long story short, I don't need her to agree with me. I can read her paper and determine for myself that that's clearly DNA. I can the preservation technique.
Here's the other part of the.
Go ahead.
Here's the other part of the conclusion. I just want to be complete. It says, although extensive research and sequencing is required to further understand DNA preservation in Mesozoic material, along with its chemical and molecular alterations, our data suggests the preserved nuclear material in the Hydrochosaurus was in a condensed state at the time of the unaliving of the organism, which may have contributed to its stability. We propose that DNA condensation may be a favorable process to its fossilization. And further, it says contamination is not a plausible explanation in this case, and to this date, the possible preservation of original proteins and DNA in deep time has not been convincingly eliminated with this data. So again, this is just a long-winded way of saying this is inconclusive and not DNA necessarily.
So you read the end of the conclusion, and then you went back up to make it sound like that was the end of the conclusion.
Well, actually, I meant to start earlier in the paragraph of the conclusion, right. But so, it doesn't matter. It's the point of the conclusion, which is that this is inconclusive. Conclusion equals inconclusive.
Yeah, so what it says right here, it says the contamination is not a plausible explanation in this case. So they're saying that that we didn't have any contaminations. What they're saying, it's not plausible. And to this date, no plausible preservation of original proteins and DNA in deep time have been conservatively estimated with data. That is saying, you're misrepresenting what it's saying. It's saying that this is DNA and we don't have the method to explain it. That's exactly what that is saying. And you read it out of
They don't have the method to prove it.
No, brother, I don't. How are you coming to that conclusion? It's right here.
Because it says it. I read it.
Okay, so let's read it again. Contamination is not plausible, right? Contamination is not plausible.
Oh no, man.
Explanation in this case. And to this date, a plausible preservation of original dinosaur DNA in deep time has not been convincingly eliminated with data. So what is that saying? And he left. Yeah, you left. You flipping coward. You come up here, you read the conclusion out of order in an effort to make it look, to strengthen your case, but you didn't know that I was following along with you reading the conclusion. So you got to the end of the conclusion and then you went back up and ran the beginning of it. But it doesn't fit what you said. It's literally saying that we're finding DNA and we don't know the method that gets it out to 65 million years. You're being dishonest. It's exactly what that says.
I just want to say I offered to read the whole paragraph for you.
You did, but I was trying to get, and I didn't know that he was going to be dishonest like that. I seen him stop at DNA, and I was like, just continue reading because you're claiming they're not finding DNA. If I realized that he was going to be dishonest like that, brother, I'd have had you read the whole thing, but I didn't think we needed to. I didn't think that he was going to try to pick and choose. Now,
I mean, whether the dinosaur DNA is 1 million years old or 65 million years old, I mean, wouldn't 1 million years old still be an issue for the prompt? Because in permafrost, it can last up to 1 million years to 1.5 million.
Sure. Why would that be an issue for me?
Well, I guess like what's the deal between 65 million and 1 million? What's the big difference?
64 million years.
I mean, we could be wrong in terms of the timing, but I mean, the 1 million is like that would still be, say, dinosaurs were 1 million years ago instead of 65 million years ago.
No,
how does that change anything about the prompt?
All right, so I got you. What changes it is I could say that Noah's flood happened 4,400 years ago. All of these dinosaur bone beds that you see were they unalived in the flood. They floated around rotting for 4 months, and then as the waters receded, they got set down in these huge graveyards, and then sediment washed over them, fossilizing them. Because this was 4,500 years ago, I can make some predictions. My predictions would be that we can still find dinosaur soft tissue and we can still find DNA fragments within them because they're only 4,500 years old. Your theory, not necessarily your theory, I don't know what you believe, but if you're an evolutionist, you can't make that claim. We know what the degradation rates of collagen is. We know what the degradation rates of DNA is. You cannot say that it lasts for 65 million years. You're stuck. I'm not. That's why it fits my theory, not yours. Wolf, you got a lot of background noise, man. Go fix your stuff, brother.
Well, I just to play devil's advocate, I could say that it's also possible that we just didn't understand preservation mechanisms for those things. And also, if what you just laid out were true, I would expect to find way more instances of DNA and soft tissue in the remains.
Well, they're actually finding it a lot more now. They found it pretty consistently. I don't know how many. I think it's like over 17 times now they're finding it, and that's pretty consistent.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can't do it in every single dinosaur bone, obviously, because you got to destroy the bone, right? And I'm sure scientists don't want to do that. That's a big problem. These. Congratulations.
They only have to destroy a small piece of it, though. They don't have to destroy the whole fossil.
I know, but still, I mean, if you had a T-Rex fossil, you're going to be giving it up to destroy parts of it to get tissue. So I'm sure that's probably an issue. But my point is that they're still finding it, and it's pretty. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 17 different times now they've found it. So it's testable and repeatable. It's not an outlier. This is happening consistently. Maybe not a lot. I wouldn't say that, but it's still happening.
I've got to run. Thanks for having me up. I appreciate you.
Hey man, appreciate you. Listen, dude. The reason why I do this is because I want to share Christ with you. So, what do you know about Jesus, man?
Oh, I'm a former Christian. I know quite a bit. I've read the Bible a whole lot.
Sure. Okay. Well, you sound formal Christian, so it sounds like you're being led back by listening to my live. So if you have any questions, man, I'd like to be the one that leads you back.
That's possible. I can't be on a panel, but I intend to drop down and hopefully hear the discussion of the microbe they brought back to life. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming.
Denying evolution is a bit crazy, host.
Oh, well, some I've been called worse things. What's crazy about it?
For one, everybody on this panel evolved from a microscopic sperm cell. Do you deny that?
That's micro. I believe in microevolution, and they didn't evolve.
Okay,
from it.
a butterfly evolves from a caterpillar. You're denying factual proof of evolution while you're
That's not
backing
evolution.
a religion with zero proof.
Wolf, come. I want to have this conversation with you, dude, but you don't spaz out on me, okay? So one, they didn't evolve. If you're talking about the sperm cell and egg, they literally did what they were designed to do. That's not evolution.
Who
They did what
designed
they were
it?
supposed to do.
Who designed it?
God.
Okay, and here's another thing that you won't be able to explain other than God did it. It's his will. No woman has ever been born from a man, but every man has been born from a woman. That's a fact you cannot negate, even with your little book, bro.
Okay.
Okay. That's a pretty big fact, bro.
Well, it's not a fact that I would deny they're heroes, so I don't get your point.
But no, because your creationist story says what? A woman was born from a man, which has never existed
No,
anywhere.
it doesn't.
except
Where does it stop? Where does it say that? Where does it
Does
say
it
that
not
man-
say that God took the rib from Adam?
That is a
and
different
mud
claim,
from the
Wolf.
ground
Wolf,
and breathed
I
life
need
into
you.
it?
I need you to
Right.
calm
No,
down, bro.
no,
I'm
it's
gonna-
not.
claim.
No, it's
I'm gonna
not.
boot
It's not
you.
a
Yes, it
different
is.
claim, man.
All
It's
right.
It's a
Here it
totally
is.
different
I'm
claim.
You
going to
didn't
mute
birth
you.
Eve,
I
though.
need you to calm down. I got this, guys. I need you to calm down. I want to engage with you, but you have to be able to follow one at a time here. So
you can't even track the conversation.
Oh, okay, so hear me out. You said that no woman has been birthed from a man. What you stated,
That's what I
unequivocally
said.
without a
You-
doubt.
okay,
Stop,
so you're
stop
tracking.
talking. Stop
We're
talking.
reiterating the shit I already said.
Get
'cause
off
you
my
can't
stage.
fucking keep up.
Get off my stage, stupid. Absolutely outrageously stupid. And then the very next words out of your mouth is that God created her from Adam's rib. Is that being birthed?
Birth, right.
Is that being birthed? Talking about I can't follow a conversation, you idiot. Absolute idiot. You come up here and say that no woman has been birthed from a man. Great, I agree with you. I've never made that claim. The Bible's never made that claim. You defeated yourself when you said that God took a rib from Adam and made Eve. That's not being birthed, you idiot. Sorry, people come up here, they want to get contentious, and they're too stupid to follow the conversation. Outrageous.
Fun fact, the only part of the body that can reproduce is the rib.
Yep, the floating rib, absolutely.
Hey, creation.
Yeah, man.
I just Gemini'd it. It says over 100 times they've found soft tissue and collagen in dinosaur bones.
Wow, it's out, man. That's bumped up way more than 17.
Yeah, just want to put that out there, brother.
Dinosaurs are fake too.
Thank you, man. Dinosaurs are fake. Well,
They're
I
probably
like.
dragons.
Well, Behemoth's in the Bible, and that's a dinosaur. So, if you go to Job 40, it says, "Behold," and I'm paraphrasing, but I could take you there if you'd like. It says, "Behold, now Behemoth, he eateth the grass as the ox. His strength is in the navel of his belly." It talks about he can drink up a Jordan River. He is the chief of the ways of God, and his tail sways as a cedar. So it's it's comparing his tail to a cedar tree. So literally, if you compare this animal that's being described in Job, literally the only thing that ever fits it would be a sauropod dinosaur.
Does anybody here disagree with the host anymore, or are we at like a impasse?
I disagree with them on dinosaurs.
I'm not done something. Yeah, wait.
I think T-Rex and
Philo.
all that stuff are fake.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
don't
they
know,
had something called the Bone Wars, where it's basically just a handful of archaeologists that went around and tried to find dinosaur bones, but nobody else finds dinosaur bones.
Well, what do you think about Behemoth that's literally mentioned in the Bible? What is that if it's not a sauropod dinosaur?
Well, what do you think about Leviathan?
Same thing. I think it was a dinosaur.
Okay, but Leviathan is still around, right?
According to the Bible, yeah, it's God, but there's a difference between it just hanging out and then God calling it for a specific time. So that would be like a miracle base, but I would agree with that. So, but that's also different. I couldn't prove that during science. If God said He's going to do this thing, then I would have to put that in the realm of miracle type deal. But yeah, Behemoth would be a sauropod dinosaur.
Host, I'm a little bit Sorry, go ahead.
I don't believe in all these T-Rexes and all these other, these other dinosaurs that they have with the Triceratops and all these other. I just
I
don't
think
believe that they're real.
Well, I mean, hey, that's your
They're all
problem. Man. I'm
man-made.
not gonna beat on you.
I mean, you can look up. They haven't really found any full skeletons. They take like a large bone from a elephant or a woolly mammoth and fit it in with other things and make them up out of ceramics and things like that. When you go into museums, the dinosaurs are not real skeletons.
I thought the T-Rex
Well,
made Sue.
well.
They found the whole
We
skull.
still identify humans when they don't have every single bone attached to them. Host, I was gonna say I'm a little bit confused on your take, just because based on hearing you talk, like I interpret you as like a very like technically intelligent person. So I'm having a hard time, especially since at one point you were talking about faith in the scientific scope. So I'm having a hard time. Like, is your biblical beliefs, is it based entirely technically, or do you believe in there being faith in your religion?
A great question. So yeah, both. And I say both for a specific reason. So I have my religious viewpoint that's based on faith about Jesus, but my faith is not without evidence. So I should say that, because the Bible literally describes faith as a substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. So things that we don't see or can't understand still should have evidence for it. Now, does everything have to be proved, 100% for me on every single thing? No, that's literally what faith, that's where my faith kicks in and takes over. But it has to have some modicum of evidence to it. So the thing that I love about the Bible is the scientific aspect of it. Like, for example, the flood, right? If the Bible is true, and I should be able to put it to a standard, right? If the Bible is true, then I take it to be true. So it's not written as a fairy tale. It's written as telling you historical events. So if Jesus rose from the dead and the Bible is telling me that this is a historical event, then I should be able to see some evidence for that. Like the flood, if the Bible says that the entirety of the planet was flooded, then I should be able to see some evidence for that, because clearly it was a worldwide event. So when I put it to a scientific method of trying to test and determine if it's true, I find that the evidence clearly lines up with it. Like, again, hydrologic sorting, polystratofossils. I've already mentioned the dinosaurs and the soft tissue and stuff. All of this stuff lines up to biblical standards.
I want to be careful, because one of my things with debating is that like I really don't like debating against religion, because I'm never going to tell you that like what you believe is wrong, especially if it's even just partially faith-based. But I'm interested right now. I'm just interested to hear more about the evidence that you're claiming. So is there geological evidence for the flood?
Yeah. So, and BB, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I do this every day, so you're
No,
free.
it's not about hurting your feeling.
There's sea creature
it's
fossils found
genuinely
above sea level is the evidence for the global flood.
So there is, yeah, but
Okay.
upheaval wouldn't disprove that. So
Well,
the evidence that I like to always cite is, thank you for the stickers, guys. I appreciate the support. The evidence that I like to show is the geologic column. Like, these layers are not millions of years apart if you have what we call polystrate fossils that connect them. So the geologic column in itself, we used to look at the geologic column and we saw catastrophe. This is called hydrologic sorting. All right, Brown, mute up now. You got a lot of background noise. So if you took sand, dirt, clay, rocks, and stuff,
That's probably the closest two rows that we have.
Sorry.
Here where
oh, you're good. I'm gonna move you down until you can get that fixed, and then you can come back up. Okay, Brown, I'll let you back up, but that's overwhelming right now. So the different layers that you see, that's called hydrologic sorting. Put dirt, sand, rocks, clay inside of a jar, add water, shake it up. They will layer out. It's called hydrologic sorting. If you get moving water, then it makes even more perfect layers, right? Again, called hydrologic sorting. I can make a prediction, BB, that if anywhere on the planet you are, as long as you're on dry ground and not bedrock, I can make a prediction that you can take a core sample of wherever you're at, and you're going to find that layering. And again, that happens in water. We can see if it happens on land or if it's wind driven because it creates dunes and low pressure. So the layering will not be straight like we normally see, like all over the planet. Like when you look at the side of Grand Canyon, you see all those different layers and different colors and straight lines. Again, that happened in hydrologic sorting. So that's more than enough evidence for the flood. Now, the way that we interpret that evidence is the geologic column. They'll look at that and say that took millions and millions of years to produce. That come from a guy named Charles Lyell. It's called uniformitarianism. He says that the way that it happened today is the way that it happened then. Obviously, Christians, we don't believe that. We believe the flood was a one-time event that clearly, disrupted the world. Uniformitarianism says that we see a slow sediment rate today with our rivers, lakes, and ponds and stuff. So therefore, because it's slow today, it must have been slow back then, obviously, without a worldwide flood. But the thing that disrupts him is called polystrate fossils. You have fossilized trees that connect many of these different layers. So clearly they can't be millions of years apart. And then we can go to the dinosaur bone beds, like the Morrison Formation that goes through 3 different countries. It goes through Mexico, all the way across the United States, up into parts of Canada. This is just one dinosaur bone bed. So Occam's razor would suggest that evolution teaches that these dinosaurs unalived either one at a time or in small groups, and then was covered up by sediment after sitting around in various stages of decay, was then covered up by sediment or a flood, and then fossilized. The evidence for the flood says that they unalived at one time. They probably got sorted out in the flood because we see this in floods. It sorts things out by body density type and things like this. In one huge floating debris mat, they got set down, and as the waters receded, it washed sediment over top of them, causing them to fossilize. It's one of the only ways, or one of the few ways, that fossilization happens.
So, okay. That makes a lot of sense. I think I have several different questions on it, and I think what we're going to end up getting into, if nobody else, because I don't really want to sit here and hog the panel up in here for a long time anyway. What I would like,
as long as you want.
my main question with you would be based in DNA, but based in everything you're talking about, it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering about first of all the Ice Age, and the soft tissue found, because I have not done research on the soft tissue found of dinosaurs. This is literally the first time I've actually ever heard of that. So I'm wondering the link between them, and how we linked them, whether or not it was it DNA lineage, because it certainly can't be fossil lineage if it was soft tissue that's linking them. That would have had to be pretty a pretty robust find.
Yeah. So how does soft tissue prove the flood? Is that what you're asking? I don't know.
No. So, do you know if when they found the soft tissue for the dinosaurs, do you know if they tracked the lineage for linking them to be dinosaurs?
Yeah.
Is
So
that what it was?
yeah, so they do say that it is, and I got Fluffy down there just putting out all kinds of misinformation, guys. It is soft. You can go watch 60 Minutes interview with Mary Schweitzer. It's absolutely soft. You can stretch it, release it, and it returns back to its original shape. It is endogenous to the dinosaur, according to the papers. I can take you there. It's not a biofilm like some people try to say. It is organic to the dinosaur, and it is collagen. So it is soft organic collagen that was grown in the dinosaur.
Well, sorry. How's it still? Was it? Where were they found?
Arizona, or
They were found in Arizona.
well, it's one of those states. It's somebody in the comments help me out
How
where
was
they
it?
found the T-Rex. It's one of those Morrison Formation beds, if I'm not mistaken. Could be the Hells Creek, but it's one of those formations right there in the Midwest, if I'm not mistaken.
How was it not deteriorated?
There you go. Yeah.
The other.
You're hitting on the right questions, BB. It absolutely should be. The reason why it wasn't is because it's only 4,500 years old. It's not 65 million. That's
Or
why it still hangs around.
even so, collagen for that should still be deteriorated.
Yep.
Even at that timeline.
Yeah, and it is. So it fits the Young model because obviously you iron cross linking can preserve it for longer. Mary Schweitzer's paper proves that it can add to the preservation, but it just can't get the half life out to be able to find 65 million years. It can preserve it longer, just can't go to 65 million.
Okay. While we're talking about half-life, I was here for you earlier talking with somebody about C14, the carbon-14 molecule, and that half-life. Is
Yep.
that the only molecule that you do not agree with the fact that the half-life can be tracked so far back?
Didn't know.
This guy. Let me go ahead and
No,
kick
I
him.
was
Let me go ahead and
You're
block him.
hilarious, Casper. That was a good one.
My bad. I went ahead and blocked him because I didn't recognize his face, so I went ahead and blocked him. I apologize for the rude and aggressive behavior, guys.
Yeah, everybody else is welcome to chime in, by the way. I don't want to, act like I'm
Listen. So here's my thing, DB. I want to have good conversations. I'm having a great conversation with you.
Yeah, open panel is great.
Yeah, they can chime in as long as it's on topic. So, what was your question again before that knucklehead jumped in and started acting stupid?
Good question. What was my question?
Oh, I was talking about iron cross-linking. Iron cross-linking.
Oh,
can-
the carbon, the
Okay,
carbon
yeah,
dating
carbon
on
acid.
things other than C14.
Yeah, so I don't even agree with C14. I only brought it up to show that knucklehead at the time we were talking to said that C14 can get billions of years. No, or millions of years. No, it can't.
Yes. So
That was my
yeah,
point with him. But every radiometric dating technique has the same fundamental flaws. One, you have to assume how much parent material was in it. Two, you have to assume the decay rate remains constant. And three, you have to assume that it's in a closed system, because the moment you put it in an open system, then radiometric material can leach in and leach out of it, meaning that it can be washed in or it can be washed out.
what are the situations in which fossils would be in an open versus closed?
Well, there's no such thing as a closed environment anywhere on the entirety of the planet.
Right. So we can, that's what I mean. So we can kind of.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go with any radiometric dating.
Well,
None.
I mean, no, I'm saying that the way that we base, or first of all, like fossils, C14 specifically, while it doesn't, I will agree with you. Maybe it doesn't go back so far. It is contained inside of the fossil. So I guess are we questioning it based on environmental disturbances?
So I can give you what they say. So the research is that they're finding the C14, and they're finding it when they do the soft tissue. So it's with the soft tissue. So they're finding measurable amounts of C14 in it. So the mainstream argument is that clearly it's contamination, meaning that groundwater is bringing in the radiocarbon material, and that's why you're getting dates from it. But there is a little bit of a dilemma there, because if leaching is happening, meaning that water is bringing in ground material to allow radiometric 14 to get into the dinosaur bone, then it should be bringing in mineralization, and the soft tissue shouldn't be there. So it doesn't matter which way you go. If you say that the soft tissue can be preserved by chemical cross-linking, then I would infer that should stop leaching, or at least slow it down to where you couldn't get carbon-14 in it. So if you say that the soft tissue is preserved for 65 million years by cross-linking, then you have to go with the radiometric material that's in it. Has to be original, meaning that it's not over 50,000 years old. It's a young dinosaur, I win. Or if you want to say that the radiometric material that's found in it is because it's leached in, meaning that the water brings in the radiometric material, then the soft tissue shouldn't be there because you have leaching. That means it's young, I win. So it doesn't matter which way they go, the dilemma still shows that the dinosaur is clearly young.
Is that specific to C14? What you were?
C14, yeah, just because it has a half-life of 5,000 and you can't measure it. You shouldn't find any measurable amounts in it past 50,000. So the fact that they're finding measurable amounts in it means that it's younger than 50,000 years old.
Sorry, I was reading a comment. The explanation you were saying before, was that all specific to C14, or was it like other radiometric?
No, great. I get what you. Sorry, I didn't understand the question. All radiometric dating material, whether you're using potassium to argon, whether you're using uranium to lead, or whether you're using radiometric carbon-14, all of them compare the decay rate to how much parent material it has. So every one of them decays into something else, or the carbon-14 decays away, right? So, like, take for example uranium into lead. Uranium decays into lead. So if you're looking at an object, you have to know how much lead was in it to begin with, because you don't know if some of it was original, then it didn't decay from uranium. So you don't know how much was in it. So you have to know how much uranium was in the material when it unalived compared to how much lead was in it when it unalived. Because if we knew for a fact that there was no lead in this zircon crystal that we're dating, there's no lead in it whatsoever. So when it started, and then when we look at it 65 million years later, there's lead in it now. So we know that all of that lead came from the decay of the uranium. And because it decays at a consistent rate, you can date that. The only problem is we don't know what the parent material was.
Yeah, that's not how fossils are being dated now, though, necessarily. But
they're being dated two ways. It's either going to be the geologic column, or it's going to be your radiometric. So that is going to
however, and let's also note that soft tissue is not a part of that for a reason. So the radiometric dating, I guess, yeah, we've gone over that. The geometric dating, though, I mean, that is a little bit further on. I don't even know if I want to bring that up, because I don't think I understand that. Probably even less than the radiometric dating.
Well, that has no science behind it. They literally just got together and looked at the individuals called Charles Lyell. You're talking about the geologic column. So the way that they date the geologic column is called index fossils. So they literally assign those dates to them, and then they assign index fossils to it. So you date the rock by the index fossil that you find in it.
Right. I mean, it generally it makes sense, but I don't, like I said, I don't think I would be able to back it up in an argument like this. I think that we were in the very beginning, when I first joined, maybe getting somewhere, because you do believe in microevolution,
right?
Just not macroevolution. And I think that we potentially were interrupted when we got to the point of I wanted to explain that, like, microevolution is macroevolution. Like, that is the small scale of macroevolution. Macroevolution wouldn't happen without microevolution. And so based on these very small changes, is kind of when you zoom out, like you're zooming out on a map or something, and then you see it on the big scale, and you're like, what do you mean we came from chimpanzees or something like that, but it's like when you zoom way in on the microevolution, which you believe in, and I'm so glad, then that explains it, So I was hoping that there was a way we could get somewhere with that. I don't necessarily know where to start, though.
I got you. So I do this all the time. So the one thing that I would have to see is genetic information gain. I agree with you that if macro is true, then it would happen through micro. I clearly understand that. But the thing that I need to see is genetic information gain. The way that I would define that is genetic, because it has to be passed on to its generation, obviously. Information as far as new structures, new function, new code, new DNA, and it has to be gained from something that clearly wasn't there before. And you and I would agree, I would imagine, that if we went from a single-celled organism to a fully functional human, that genetic information gain has happened literally quadrillions of times. I just need one example of that happening that's not inferred, that's testable and observable genetic information gain that just happened one time. Now, a lot of creationists have a unreasonable standard. I need to see a bird give birth to a non-bird and all this other stuff. I just need to see genetic information gain that's clearly testable and observable, that's not inferred.
Okay.
Don't give me an example of trait isolation, and don't give me an example of degradation, but genetic information gain.
Okay. I feel like genetic. Okay, this is where I got into a little bit of a spiff with the one guy that thought I was like really dogging on him or something to explain genes earlier. And that was just because like the way that we're talking about this in layman's term is a little bit different, maybe. And so when you say like genetic information is gained, like are you specifically saying that like genes are being added rather than like deleterious mutation?
Now, I do believe in mutations, but it takes existing information, right? So new information would not be existing information.
Well, there's I mean a form of mutation is literally like an added let's just say letter, like an added letter in the sequence. That's a form of mutation that can happen.
Sure, and like I said, I do believe in mutations, and that's within micro. But like, if I grew another arm outside of my body right here,
well, that would be based though on the sequence.
I know, but my point is that the code that wrote the arm already existed. It just got mutated and duplicated. That wouldn't make it new information because the code wasn't written. However, if I grew a pair of wings, and I know I'm being over pedantic, but follow me. If I grew a pair of functional wings out of my back, then clearly I have code that wrote that wing, right?
Exactly.
And that would be different code.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, what you're describing is additive in your framework, because even just like even if it is like a deleterious gene, or if it is something like a horizontal or a duplication, or like an additive gene mutation, something like that would completely, if that is a gene coding material, mind you, because this happens all the time in non-coding material, which is how we track evolution. But if this happens in a coding material, then it can drastically change how phenotypically that you are observed. And
but de novo genes usually come. They're usually switched on and are dormant. It's we don't see them like creating new stuff. It's usually most of the time
that's what I mean by
dormant.
Yeah, that's what I mean by non-coding genes. So
de novo genes. So they a lot of the times they're either active in like placenta, so then they become de novo after that, or they're not used unless something happens to where we need them, and the de novo gene kicks in. We see this like with different bacterias where they say they started eating this new food source or whatever. It's like, no, it already had the ability to do that. It's just the de novo gene kicked in, right? They thought it was non-coding at first, and then it actually turned out that it was turned on when it started facing this threat.
Yeah,
but it was already there, so that's not new information. That's existing information.
No. But sorry, it's new for the genetic tree, rather.
Yeah, but it's not new to the organism because the organism already had the gene and it coded for the gene. It just we didn't know it had to function until this new thing happened.
Wait, sorry. So what evidence are you looking for? If not, because what I thought that you were referring to earlier was new genetic material in the way that you receive genetic material from mom and dad, and then something happens and you have a different genetic material based on that, like some kind of defect based on, I don't know, environment, anything.
I understand anything. Right, so we're not going to see it. I wouldn't imagine that you're going to be able to say that we're going to bring up this one specific examples in something that has a long time to reproduce, right? So it takes 9 months for a human to have a baby, and then it usually takes 15, 16 years for that individual to become sexually mature to be able to have a child, and then the process starts over. So naturally, those lineages are going to take several hundred years to get just a couple of generations. But we can, again, I brought this up earlier, why is it when we do it in bacteria with the same amount of generational counts, why is it that we see the exact opposite? We see degradation. We do not see information gain. Why is it in the same amount of generational count that we went from an ape type ancestor, whatever that might have been according to y'all, to a human type ancestor? Why is it in the same generational count in bacteria we see degradation and not information gain? Long ago and far away it happened over here, but when we observe it, it stops. It's like the slit experiment.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting observation for micro, for like bacteria. And I used to work in micro, so I'm surprised that's actually news to me. It's really interesting. I'll probably look into it. But I'm not really maybe I'm not understanding like the crossover to humans in that sense. Like, why does it matter that there's degradation in micro happening right now if we can explain the evolution in humans also?
What do you mean explain it?
So I mean, you agree that we can explain like the microevolution. Actually, let me first understand your take before I go any further. So, you because you said that you agree with microevolution. So tell me about like your beliefs and like how life began.
Well, now that I clearly take a creationist viewpoint. I believe the Bible is literally true on that one.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe that God spoke matter into existence.
Okay, so like you believe like specifically like Adam and Eve and then like a tree from there?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be a generational bottleneck though. We wouldn't have made it very far if we were just based on Adam and Eve, unfortunately.
If you say that, but they would have been front loaded, and clearly they were made straight from the hand of God, so their genetic information would have been clearly superior to what we have now. But
like they were like perfectly made to be able to reproduce into.
Of course, that's
like,
their first
Okay.
the first order that God gave them was to be reproduced. But I want to address the bottleneck thing there because we actually see this. I'm sure you're familiar with mitochondrial Eve, right?
Mitochondrial Eve?
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, everybody on the planet alive today can trace their mitochondrial DNA to one single
sorry,
female.
mitochondrial DNA. Yes.
Well, it goes back to a mitochondrial Eve, which was one single female. Like we know it was a human female person, and every single person alive today can trace their mitochondrial DNA to her. I would say
sorry,
that's
that's not necessarily the understanding. It's based on maternal lineage, but it's not exactly traced back to like I don't know if you did a 23andMe, you're not going to see Eve at the top of it. You know what I mean? So yes, I know exactly what you mean, but
but what I'm saying is factually accurate. Everybody can trace their mitochondrial DNA today to one single female in Africa. That's where they believe she hailed out of. And that's not true. You're going to tell me that's not true?
No, that's
I
correct.
actually am. I'm gonna write that. I'm gonna write that down just to.
Yeah, I can take you to the paper if you'd like. It's done in the 1980s, but yeah, that is true. Every single human alive today on this planet can trace their mitochondrial DNA to one single female. Now, I said that.
Okay, so wait. First, I want to hear the name of it so I can write it down, and then I'll respond.
Yeah, no problem. It's called mitochondrial Eve.
There's also a Y chromosomal Adam.
And then, so, if that is the case, if there is one mitochondrial Eve, is that your belief? By the way, sorry.
Well, that's the science belief. Yeah, that's what it shows. I don't have any reason to disagree with it.
Okay, so if that is what you believe, how do you not believe in evolution in that sense? If we have all evolved from one mitochondrial Eve.
Well, the mitochondrial Eve was a human. So when you say evolve, we went from human to being human. I don't think that's much of an evolution.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. That was a dumb question.
A lot of their own species have their own mitochondrial Eve. So, like bonobos have their own mitochondrial. Most animal species have their own mitochondrial lineage, which shows that they go back to their original kind. Like bonobos have bonobos, chimps have chimps, gorillas have gorillas, so forth and so on.
Okay.
Now, after that, they're going to say that they're related. They're going to use, nuclear DNA and similarities to say that these things relate back farther than that. But as far as the lineage is concerned, they each have their own mitochondrial Eve.
Yeah. So, okay. So first of all, I'm not disagreeing at all because again, like I work with DNA. I do mDNA. So I recognize that mitochondrial can be linked to the maternal lineage. Extremely helpful for forensics, but nonetheless, when we're talking about evolution specifically, and it's difficult because I don't think I've ever talked to somebody on this basis before. Like you recognize micro but not macro, so just let me know if I'm like getting your stance wrong, if I'm saying something and you're like, no, that doesn't track, or something like that. But based on, like I said, micro forms into macro, and so how do you disagree with facts like the shared like mutations or like non-coding DNA that's passed along? Specifically, you mentioned bonobos, one of our closest linked ancestors. So like us and chimpanzees, for example, have a lot of non-coding, very similar genetic sequences that you can see across a tree. It's just, yeah, phenotypically, obviously, like we have gone into separate branches of a tree, but is that something that you recognize, or do you?
Right. So I would answer that by saying this: we don't know that they're bonobo right now. I said bonobo. We don't know that they're non-coding right now. Excuse me. Talking about the apes. We don't know that they're non-coding because some of them turn out to be coding when they face a situation that they haven't faced before. So we don't know that every single one of them might not, and some of them are non-coding now, but they wasn't in early embryonic stages. So it wouldn't be fair to say that we clearly share these things. So that determines universal common ancestor. I would say that the common design in these DNA. That's my argument. Goodness, I can't talk. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a minute. The commonality in these DNA sequences would be a common designer just as much as it would be common ancestor. That's what I was trying to say. Excuse me. So the DNA inside of me that tells my body how to code for a five fingers and a hand, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, it would be identical in an ape because they have the same thing. And again, non-coding DNA, when we say that we share the same thing, well, we don't know that it's non-coding in every single situation. Sometimes it becomes non-coding after it started coding for in the early stages, and then sometimes it becomes coding when it faces a new threat, which I think is a clear evidence for design.
Well, to be clear, in most cases, especially in mammals, I mean, maybe in bacteria, like you referenced before, but in mammals, the non-coding DNA does not typically become coding DNA. And I would just want to specify, just in case, or if anybody else doesn't understand it, non-coding versus coding is referring to the phenotypical expression. So like that's what you would see happen physically. So when you were talking about like our physical differences with chimpanzees, that is exactly what I mean. We can still share a lot of the same DNA information, even though our coding DNA is so tiny. There's such a small.
But what happens if you remove all the junk DNA?
What do you mean? What happens?
What happens? Are you aware of what happens if I was to say, you say it's non-coding, it's this is what they refer to as junk DNA. What happens if we remove all of it?
It's certainly. I mean, I certainly would not call it junk DNA, especially.
Well, that's what they called it, right? That's literally what they called it. Do you know why they went from calling it junk DNA to no longer calling it? Now they just say non-coding. They literally, the scientific term for this before was junk DNA.
I mean, maybe it's for for people like me for forensic identification. Like we recognize a lot of non-coding DNA alleles, but
So that's my point. It used to be called junk DNA, and the reason why they stopped calling it junk, and you can look this up. You work in DNA, you probably know what I'm talking about here. They used to call this junk DNA, and the reason why they don't call it junk DNA anymore is because they found out that just because they think something is non-coding, that when they remove it, it's detrimental to the body, and sometimes it'll unalive the organism. So clearly, it's not junk, and if it unalives the organism when they remove it, that just means they don't understand it. And there's a lot about DNA that we don't understand. So when we're putting these absolutes out there, got some background noise, Jason. So mute you up there.
Jason, you can add to it if you want to. I don't want to.
Well, now he was talking to somebody in the background. So, but my point is we're not going to make an absolute like it's like this is all non-coding, but even if I was to grant you that, which I don't, because like I said, sometimes we think something is non-coding, but we found out that it had a purpose either in extremely early development that we didn't realize, and then it became non-coding because it's no longer used, but it was coding to begin with, or it might become coding if we face a new threat or have a new situation to where these genes, we do have examples of these genes, quote unquote, turning on. So we just didn't realize what the circumstance was to begin with. But even if
examples, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I'll say even if I was to grant you that, it wouldn't prove common ancestor any more than it would common designer. Common designer can still be just as it would be the same evidence for common ancestor.
Right. So, I mean, the only difference in like our what we're talking about right now is like the phenotypical traits, and that would be like the coding molecule. So even if you agree that like maybe the non-coding genes somehow like would come into effect, which I'm gonna hold to the fact that usually in mammals they do not, but I'm not gonna like disagree with you or tell you you're wrong in saying that they could. But even if they do, like, I'm not going to grow a tail. You know what I mean? So when I'm talking about the non-coding genes, I'm just saying that, like, yeah, I recognize that, like, me and a chimp hopefully don't look very alike. However, we can still share so much genetic information that you can trace it back to a tree. And by tracing it back, I mean, you can go as far as there's also humanoids, you know, like Ardipithecus, like the half bipedality individuals that came from chimpanzees and became bipedal to become humanoids. But regardless, the differentiation that I'm making right now is with the non-coding genes is strictly phenotypically. So I think that we agree on that.
Yeah, but like I said, again, I just when we set these things up, I just want to make sure that everybody's following along. Like real world examples of what scientists believe non-coding genes and then became coding genes. Right off, it says human NCYM gene. And what it does is it plays a role in suppressing tumors, so it doesn't turn on until you get a tumor. So if you was to see this gene without a tumor, you would say it's non-coding. The moment
that's fine, but I'm saying you're not going to grow a tail. You're not going to grow
right.
Like yeah. So like when I'm saying that we
don't have
like,
genes to create a tail though.
Exactly. Which is why I'm saying phenotypically. Phenotypically means things that show on the outer physical.
Right.
So that would be like skin color. That would be like hair color. Not things like you know.
But we share so much more than that than just phenotypical. We have stuff like digestive systems that I would imagine lungs. I would expect the DNA that creates lungs or digestive systems or codes for building a heart or a nervous system or a backbone or bone.
Now, where did that come from? Where do you feel like
that's my point
that
is,
came from?
That evidence would be just as strong, if not stronger, for a common designer, meaning that these things were designed that way. If they're not designed that way, then you can't use similarities and say, well, now the evidence for it would count for similarity. I would concede that these things, If they came from each other, then we can make these predictions. I would concede that. But it works for me just as much. If God created it this way, that he could also use this code. So now we're stuck at the same thing, so we have to go to different evidences to try to determine it, right?
Okay.
So what
The
does
last
the
thing-
other evidences fit? And I clearly go with creation because I do not see any of this macroevolution that's testable and observable. It should be. We no longer have, a single-celled organism should be able to still go into multicellular organisms. Why did this only happen once and then stop?
Well,
Why does
that's
bacteria?
on a different. That's on a different level. That is creationism, and I didn't even join the panel originally to argue like creationism originally. I'm just arguing evolution specifically. So
I am too. I'm not talking about abiogenesis. I'm talking about a single-celled organism evolving into a multicellular organism.
right.
We don't see that anymore.
no, in there. Well, we certainly don't see it anymore. But we also do have very relative, empirical data of evolution. Like we can look back at evolution and know it to be scientifically true.
Like what?
And so, hang on, I had a point, but I was gonna kind of end off on just because I was I'm rambling right now. Hang on. I forgot.
I have a question.
Sure, man.
How do you explain the fossil record?
Me? The flood.
The flood? How? Can you explain?
Well, it depends on what question you're asking. Like, how do I explain the fossil record as far as?
Well, when it comes to evolution and the flood, really, because
okay. So if you're talking about
everything will be on. For the flood, everything will be on the same strata if a flood did happen. So how do you explain the lack of that?
Well, that wouldn't be a prediction the flood model would make at all. I don't know where you got that at. That wouldn't happen at all. We wouldn't expect everything to be at the same strata because nothing lives in the same strata. Like we would expect to find crustaceans like crabs and things of this nature that live at the bottom of the ocean. If you have a catastrophic event, we would expect the crustaceans to be at the bottom because that's where they live. Then we would expect a fish to be in the next layer because they live just above the crustaceans. So, for example, let's imagine that I have a swimming pool and I have fish, crabs, and amphibians like salamanders in there. And then I take a bunch of mud and sand and dirt and stuff and I throw it in there. Well, the crabs are going to be at the very bottom because they're going to be covered up by the sediment and they can't swim up. The fish are going to be buried next because they live right above the crabs, and then the amphibians are going to be buried in a layer above them because they live above the fish. So the layer that you see in the geologic column, the evolution says it goes from the Cambrian explosion, which would be your crustaceans, and then it goes into fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal, and bird. That's the way they live now. Birds are at the top because that's where they live, right? And then crabs are at the bottom because that's where they live. So that's the way we would expect to find it in the flood, and that's exactly the way we find it. So I don't know.
In the flood, because in the flood, everything would die around the same time. So it would all.
How long was the flood on the planet?
40 days, right?
No. The flood was on the planet for about a year. The ark floated around for about 4 months. So not every hill was covered for an entirety of the year, but it took them a year from the time it started to the time they got off the boat was a year long. Okay.
But if they all died at the same time, they would all be on the same same plane. Why wouldn't they?
When you say they die at the same time, what do you? So we believe that they died within a year of each other, but we don't believe that they all died at the exact same time. Clearly, that would you'll have animals that can survive longer. Thank you for the stickers. I appreciate the support, guys. So, like for example, a bird is not going to die as quick as a fish because a bird's going to fly around. And clearly, not every fish unalive, but imagine that you have a landslide. A crab can't run away from it, so it's going to get covered up pretty quickly. As to where a fish and a bird can the fish is going to swim away from the landslide and be buried last, and a bird's going to clearly fly around until it can't fly around no more, so it's going to be buried at the top. So when you say they
How would
died
it?
at the
But
same
how
time,
does a couple days make a difference? If a bird
year.
is flying around,
a year, brother. We said a year.
I understand that, but a bird flying around is not going to fly around for a year until it dies.
You got to look at weight. You got to
You
look
don't
at
think
weight too, brother. All the stuff that weighs would sink in the water. A fish is going to sink in the water before a let's say a T-Rex died. It would get bloated and it would float around. Fish is going to sink to the bottom. Let's say a bird died with the T-Rex. Which is going to sink first and get covered up in sediment? The T-Rex or the bird? The T-Rex
The
will get
T-Rex.
the T-Rex. So that would also create a different layers and stuff like that that we see through the geological column. Even if they all died at the same time, a flood would sort them out through density, weight, and the kind of the way we see it now.
Yeah, and a bird's going to have something to land on, brother. For if things are unaliving in a flood, a bird's going to clearly have something to land on and rest its feet. So I would imagine that most of your birds probably unalived from starvation, not because they had to fly around and from exhaustion. You're going to have floating debris match that's the size of states.
So what I'm trying to say is so you said some things will sink to the bottom before others, right?
Sure.
Do you know? Let's look at it like this. Do you know how a fossil is made? I'm not being mean, but do you know how a fossil is made? Every fossil is made from mineral. It's replacing the rock, or excuse me, it's
Yes,
replacing the
the
calcium.
bone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So all that has to be done in moving water. Almost all of the time, I don't know of any exceptions where a fossil can be made without it being in water. So you can look at the creation, which would explain everything on this Earth that's fossilized, including dinosaurs and stuff, could possibly fit under one flood. Or if you believe in evolution, it was a million billion floods all over the Earth at different times, at different places, and that's harder to believe.
I'm sorry.
Why does it need to be in a flood?
Because mineral replaces the calcium. It has to be done in water, and it usually moving water, not stagnant, because the stagnant don't have
By
any minerals.
calcium, do you mean like the calcium that we find in
Okay,
fossils? Because that's
if
found in bone.
if I was to unalive right now and step out in my yard and unalive, I would not fossilize. I have to be buried, and it has to be around moving water, so minerals will come in and replace my calcium and replace it. When you find a fossil, it is bone. It is a rock. Excuse me.
Yes. So are you talking specifically about like what kind of decomposition are you talking about? Because do you mean like for
anything that is fossilized.
skeletonization? You absolutely for skeletonization you need to have running water. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Guys,
normally.
so let me help out just real quick. I don't know, like the water that moves, the water moves in minerals and replaces the bone. That's fossilization. Come on, guys.
Right, stagnant like a stagnant pond probably wouldn't do it. Now I'm going to say that's my belief, but you have to be in water. You have to be buried rapidly. That way it can replace it. If I unalived in my yard, I would never fossilize. The crows, the buzzards, everything would pick me apart, and nothing
Right,
would fossilize.
Okay, so I'm hoping that I'm just not tracking because what about like mummification? How would you
Mummification
explain
is
that?
not fossilization.
Right, but you can still find fossils from mummification. No?
Mummification is not the same as fossilization.
But
Mummification
if you find let's say you find a mummy, is that not a fossil?
No, a mummy is not a fossil.
No?
No,
a mummy's not a fossil. It's not. You're not taking a fossil is
That's not
taking.
bone? That's not bone?
Fossils are not bones. Fossils
Fossils are
are
not bones.
rocks. Fossils are rocks, 100%.
So
They're
okay,
not
sorry.
100%
We're not talking about finding like animals or individuals or anything with this conversation. Am I not tracking?
Yeah,
I'm not tracking what you're tracking.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of confused now too. So let me just step in here and help out because I don't. Yeah. So a fossil. What happens with a fossil is the organism is unalived, right? and then
Exactly.
the organic material is replaced with the minerals. So the actual bone washes away, and the only thing that's left is the rock that's in the shape of the bone.
Okay. I
Right?
see what you mean.
Now,
I see what you
clearly,
mean.
all of it hasn't been because we're still finding soft tissue and stuff. But I'm giving an overview. That's what my man's saying right here is that the water brings in the mineral and replaces the bone.
You're saying the
That's
absence. Okay.
fossilization. Now when you have mummification, that's different. You're taking out the material that would decompose it, like
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
taking that out and you're dehydrating it. That's not the same as fossilization.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're on.
Are you do you agree that we can know how old these fossils are through radiometric dating and other sources, right? Or not?
Well, let my man Twin Dragon there made his point because I jumped in. Let him land
Oh,
his
my bad.
plane
Go
and then I'll answer that. Did you land your plane there, Twin Dragon?
I'm sorry, I was on mute and another deer stepped in my garden, but so I missed part of that conversation. So I'll let y'all continue.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're all right. So yeah, it was getting kind of confusing there. So, but we're just making sure everybody's on the same page. So yeah, that's what he was saying. I got it. But to answer your question about radiometric dating, no, I do not believe radiometric dating gives an accurate date on anything.
How come? Like we know that the half-lives of these
Yeah.
we know the half-life, so
Yeah.
how could that not be true?
So that's a great question. So we understand the decay rate, which would be the half-lives that you just mentioned. How long have we been observing the half-lives remaining constant? How long have we had this information?
Probably no longer than like 75, 80 years maybe.
Okay, I'll bump it up to 100 just to make the math simple. But yeah, you are correct. So we've been observing the radiometric consistency in the decay rate for 100 years. Everything past radio 14 goes into the billions of years. So you want to make me believe that because we've been observing it remain constant for 100 years, that therefore it extrapolates to 1 billion years, meaning that it remains constant? I think that that's a big pill to swallow. But I said that to say this: it is a nuclear force, so that is the one that I would be willing to grant. I would grant you that the decay rate remains constant. You still have a problem of how much parent material was in it when it unalived. How much was in it when it started? You don't know. If you don't know how much was in it, you don't know how much is decayed away. For example, if we know that uranium decays into lead, you have to assume that there was no lead in it when it started, because if there was, you don't know how much uranium decayed into lead. So you just don't know. So you have to be there when it unalived to know how much lead was in it to begin with, or not unalived, but washed into it, or what.
Hold on, something about that is not seeming right. The math, something is still like, hold on, I need to think because just because you weren't there when it was unalived, and if you have a certain amount now.
Yeah. So let me make it real simple for you. So carbon-14 is probably the easiest to understand. I can do uranium.
Right, yeah, carbon-14. Let's do carbon-14.
Carbon-14. Okay, so carbon-14 is made in the atmosphere when the sun's rays come in the atmosphere. Basically, nitrogen captures it, and it becomes nitrogen-14 captures an atom from it, and it becomes carbon-14. Carbon-14 then settle down to the atmosphere, and plants absorb carbon-14. And then animals eat the plants that absorb carbon-14, so they absorb carbon-14. And then other animals like us eat the animals that absorb it. So you're constantly taking in carbon-14. And at the same time you're taking it in, it's decaying away. The moment that you unalive, you stop taking in carbon-14, so that starts the clock. So you have to know how much carbon-14 was in the organism when it unalived, or you don't know how much half of it remains.
So are you saying that they're just guessing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're guessing how much was in it. They're imagining the decay rate remains constant. And then you have to imagine that it's in a closed system, which doesn't exist on the planet. Because if you're in an open system, then water can bring in radiometric material. And if it can be leached in or out of the organism that you're, or whatever you're dating, if radiometric material can be brought in and taken out by water, then you can't. There's no possible way you can tell me that those dates can be accurate.
But by the way, I'm impressed, and I love how you know a wide range of wide range of this stuff. Because creationists usually don't. They just say it's all a bunch of hoopla, but you're challenging me, and that's great.
Thank you, man.
So, if we know the half-life of carbon-14, and you're saying that we have to assume that it's constant too?
Yeah, the decay rate's constant. I will give you that one because it is a nuclear force. So let's imagine that. Let me do it like this, okay? You and I are talking. We're buddies. We're homies, and we go to a party, and we walk into a room, and there is a candle that is lit. You and I see the candle, and we say, "Hey, man, let's do some science right here. How long has this candle been lit for?" Well, we don't know. So what we do is we go and take it and we measure the burn rate. We put a measuring stick next to it. I can't think of the stupid word for it. We go a tape measure. Sorry, I lost my brain there for a second. We go put a tape measure next to the candle, and the candle is 10 inches tall. When was it lit? We don't know. So we wait an hour, and then we go back and we measure it again, and now it's 9 inches tall. So okay, we wait another hour, and we go back and we measure it again, and now it's 8 inches tall. So we can determine that the burn rate is 1 inch an hour. When was it lit? You're never going to be able to answer that question unless you start making some assumptions. You have to know how tall the candle was, then you can make that assumption. But if you don't know how tall the candle is, there's no way you can guess the age of it or when it was lit.
Well,
I don't think it's
with that metaphor. You could, because of how much of the candle
gone.
has been liquefied. Yeah, how much of it is gone? Like, it pulls up at the bottom, does it not?
Yeah, but you're not going to be able. A lot of that stuff is lost through energy. That's Newton's second law of thermodynamics. So you can't pick up the wax that's on the ground and then say that 100% of this wax just melted, because Newton's second law says that the energy has to go somewhere clearly, and it's burning it away. So clearly
Also-
you're not going to be able to get that from that. It's going to be an inaccurate reading from that also.
Okay, say that the flood was real, but I mean, like, wouldn't it make more sense, instead of getting a man to build a boat for a good 50 years, and instead of just wiping out the race that was bad in the first place, like just snapping his fingers and get rid of them?
Well, that's just an argument from God doesn't do it the way that I would do it, and I can do it better than him, so therefore
Well,
it's not.
I want to answer that. If he
I mean, he
snapped,
could
his,
do it
if he
without
snapped
killing
his
babies.
fingers, there would be no evidence of his divine nature. If he just snapped his finger, there would be no more evidence. The
There's
flood
no
is
evidence
evidence
now
that,
with
of God's wrath.
There's still no evidence that he still exists. I mean,
Right,
besides
exactly.
the book that he has.
What do
That
you,
may
so,
not
And
even
the
be
flood.
okay, hold on. Let me answer that now. So you say there's no evidence. Let me ask you a couple of clarifying questions. What about Alexander the Great? You believe he existed?
I mean, I believe that a lot of kings existed, yeah.
Okay, so when you say you do believe that Alexander the Great existed, why do you believe he existed?
I mean, because I only believe in him, or I mean, I take it with a grain of salt. Like, if I hear that a king existed a long time ago, of course I'm going to believe it, because there's
Okay, that's
a lot of
fine.
kings.
So, I mean, I'm not saying that you have to give me I'm not saying you can't be wrong, but you clearly do believe that Alexander the Great existed, right? I mean, even if it's just a little bit, you believe that it existed. Now,
Sure,
But
the
if
reason,
you don't believe Alexander the Great existed, I don't
I'm
get
asking you
punished
some,
forever.
I know, but I'm asking you some clarifying questions. When you say there's no evidence, that's why I'm sticking to this. I don't want you to go to an emotional argument about getting punished, because we can't stick to this argument.
Can
Let's
I
stick with
provide
this.
some evidence
That's not
about?
emotional.
Hold on, guys.
It's going to
Hold on,
happen to all of
guys.
us.
Hold on, guys. I don't mind answering the emotional arguments, but when you go to when you ask for evidence and I'm giving it to you, and then you run to an emotional argument, it shows that you're really not interested in the answer. You just
Well,
want to.
do you mind explaining well, like, so it's not so much an emotional argument. What it's
If it's
doing
gonna
is
happen
it's
to
like
all of
it's
us.
well, it's
Yeah,
not
it,
even
it,
that.
it is. So
It
no, wait,
changes
stop.
my level
No,
of
100% emotional.
Stop. It's 100% emotional. When you ask me for evidence, and the moment I start clarifying the evidence, you go, "Well, Jesus was bad, or God was
Okay,
bad, because I'm going to
just
be
clarify
tormented
the
forever."
evidence.
That's an emotional argument. So if you would like the evidence for God, I will give it to you. But if you're
Yes,
going to do
yes, please.
if you're going to do the crybaby emotional stuff, I don't have time to soak up the tears in here.
That's really not an emotional stuff if it's gonna happen to all of us.
Okay, so here's the deal. This is what I want. Let's stick to one topic at a time. Don't
Okay,
run to
okay.
an emotional argument when you ask for evidence. Fair enough?
It's not emotional if it's gonna happen to all of
All
us.
right, get off my stage.
You make
Nah, go cry at someone else's stage. I literally,
Can
you
we?
ask me for evidence and you keep trying to support that crybaby argument. Go cry on somebody else's TikTok. I don't do the crybaby stuff here, man. I don't mind answering your question if it's coming from a legit place, but I know it's not coming from a legit place when you say, hey, what's the evidence for God's existence? The moment you realize I'm going to go to the text and to show you that you believe in these individuals that have a little bit of writing about them, but you don't believe in God or Jesus, who claims to be God, who has a whole lot of writing. I'm showing you that your standard is not accurate. The moment you realize that, you're like, well, I'm going to be punished for eternity. And I'm like, that's an emotional crybaby argument. Go cry on somebody else's live.
So
Brother,
the
So
point of that was to explain that they're not equal examples. I can be agnostic to both of them. That's fine. Like I'm fine with like maybe not believing that Alexander the Great existed.
that's why I
Whatever.
ask clarifying questions. But if you do
Sure, go for
believe,
it.
which is what he said, I asked him a
Mhm.
clarifying question. And the clarifying question was, do you believe it? And then I'm trying to check his standard. So if he has a
Sure.
standard, then I can show him the evidence. It depends on the standard that he has. So if he has a standard that I go with the historical evidence, and that's why I believe that Alexander the Great existed, then I can show him the biblical evidence to show him that Jesus existed. Now, once you believe that Jesus existed just because of the historical evidence, then you've got to clearly go with what the historical evidence says about him. I think that that's reasonable. That's the evidence. Now, it depends on your standard. So that's it.
Sure, absolutely. No, I think that that's everybody kind of puts information they get on some level of their standard, right? Does this make sense or not? And so I think maybe the end game or like why that would be something you'd bring up is because I can like we'll have to look outside of the Bible or texts about Alexander the Great. And I know you were trying to get their standard, but I don't know. I don't want to speak for them, but that was my guess is like, hey, look, we don't need to go into the biblical examples of this. We'll need to look outside of just kind of the story itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on what you're asking for. That's why I asked clarifying questions. I
Oh,
think you knew where I
100%.
was going, and that's why I went to the emotional argument.
I see. I just didn't. I interpreted that exchange quite differently. So I'm glad you engaged there because I was just curious. Yeah. No. I'll echo what Ethan said earlier. Is like it does seem like you make what feels like an honest effort to understand this stuff, and you fall on your side of it. So I just kind of hopped up to talk more about radiometric dating and the candle thing, but I've been chatting a lot, so someone else can talk.
Right, you just started actually. So what do you got?
Oh man, I was just gonna say that you really can. I mean, the candle I think is quite a good example actually, because you can have different candles at different rates, and like it's fair that you can say like, well, you couldn't know, but you can do studies, right? And like you can find out other extra accidental things, right? Like maybe you try to like light a candle and one melts really well, but the candle you have doesn't. So that tells us something was different about this situation. So like you really can figure out maybe more than you'd expect.
Sure. When was it lit? If you heard my analogy, when was it lit?
Sure. And so like based on your example, like if you're telling us that it doesn't leak, I'm not
It
sure.
burns at one rate a minute. We understand that 1 inch a minute. That's
Okay, sure.
That's the decay rate. And it started off when we noticed it was already lit at 10 inches. It's been 2 hours. It's 8 inches now. When was it lit?
Well, so like I said, that's an awesome question, and you would have to look outside of that to figure it out. So you'd have
What he's
to.
saying is you're going to have to make some assumptions. You can't get around it. You're going to have to assume that it was the same material above it that burned the same rate. It was in the same environment. All these you can't prove through any study. You're going to have to make assumptions in that scenario that he gave. Was the candle a different material above it? Was it in the same environment?
But there's like he said, there's tests that you can run. Like if you let's say it's 10, like you said, it's 10 inches. Every minute it goes down 1 inch, and then you can weigh it, see how much total weight it has. Then and when it burns down,
I'm not trying to interrupt you. I want to help you out though. I'm being very serious. It's mathematically impossible for you to determine when it was lit unless you determine how tall it was.
But I'm
Even
saying,
if I grant you everything else, if you don't know how tall it was to begin with, you're never going to know when it was lit.
no, what I'm saying is you can weighing it before and after can tell you how much energy is lost, how much of it was burned off.
So
Brother, what are you weighing? You don't know how much was lost before, even if it was made of wax. What are you weighing?
You will know how much gets burned off from the entire 10 inches.
I don't want to stay on this. No disrespect. I'm not trying to sling rocks, but if you can't get it, I don't want to stay stuck on an analogy.
Yeah, Ethan, let me try one time because this goes to the next point. And so the gist is, you are right if you're measuring the rate of change, right? You have to know the before condition to measure the after condition, and then you can get time. And so that's what Host was talking about with like 1 inch per minute. So that's how you can do it. The question that's being posed is, you see it after this process has run. How big was it at the start? And so I wanted to stay kind of in that example about other stuff, because what you kind of find with things like elements are candles come out of a factory at certain lengths. And so at certain times and burn rates, you can see how other candles work and operate. And so it's yes, if this is all the information we ever had, which is why the analogy is kind of tough. It's if this is all the information we ever had, sure, that would be unknowable. But you to what Twin was saying,
Yep.
There are assumptions, but that's the whole point of research is to take as many of those out as you can.
Yeah,
so
but
in
you have
Half-Life,
to-
it's kind of done that.
Yeah, but even if I grant you the half-life with radiometric dating outside of this analogy, let's get on to actual radiometric dating now.
Sure.
You have to assume that it's in a closed system, which it's not. This is the planet Earth. We know it's not in a closed system at all. And secondly, you have to, and even if I grant you that the decay rate remains constant, you still have to know how much parent material was in it when it began with.
So a couple of things. First, I'm with you that a lot of stuff is going on, but a system is only ever defined by your boundaries on it. So I would say that the best explanation is that, hey, you're totally right. This is not a closed system. However, the effects that are presented are essentially uniform across Earth. There are differences, right, that we've studied to find those at altitude and whatever. So yes, but I think it's equal that it has an impact. And the second point is, I don't know if constant is necessarily the right word, because a decay rate is, I believe, logarithmic. Not that it matters, but you're right. And the idea is the same, that it's hey, we have to assume that it is on this trend. But that's we have those estimates because we've tested it. And you're totally right. There's variance in that. There's wiggle room. I won't say that it's I wouldn't risk everything I owned on getting, I don't know, the day right of a radiometric date. But I mean, for most of those things, you're looking at slow stuff. So you're looking at genetics, or you're looking at fossils like we were talking about earlier. So it's really old things. And so kind of to the question about Alexander the Great too, it's well, if we've got compelling cases for it, it's maybe we'll have his armor, or maybe, and if we don't, oh, sorry.
Can y'all still hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was just going to say, like, you can get an idea of Alexander the Great or Jesus like the same way. Just measure that stuff. And the idea is to be as accurate as possible. Like, it doesn't do us any good if it's a useless tool. And so that's my piece on it. Your engagement.
William, I think you froze up.
Oh, yeah. It froze up. It froze up there for a second, but then it come back. So that was strange.
I heard him. It's a pretty good argument, brother, and I hope you realized kind of what you did. You mentioned Alexander the Great and finding his armor and stuff like that. That's 100% evidence, and I think that's where he was going with Jesus before the other guy, got ill and got kicked. There's evidence. If God did these things that He said He did, He would leave evidence back behind us. Maybe some, if He flooded the whole earth as for wrath, maybe He would leave some evidence to show us that He did it.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that completely. For me, this is like a personal line, right? Everybody's got that point at which you're like, hey, this is reasonable. For me, it just doesn't feel overwhelmingly convincing. Like there are too many other like unknown variables. I'm just like, the assumptions I'd have to make or like concessions would be quite broad. Is what it feels like.
That's exactly what I have to do with evolution. Like what we talked about radiometric dating, and we assume that they got this they got this right. That's not true at all. They have to. It's so factually inaccurate that they have to come up with other fields of science in an effort to prop it up. Wiggle matching, Hall-Set plateau, the marine reservoir effect. You have to come up with these other fields in an effort to prop up radiometric dating because it does not work. And the only reason they assume it to work when we do it on items of known age, meaning that we know the age, radiometric dating almost never works. But when it's on items of unknown age, then we assume that it's always correct. It's just ridiculous to me. Like I can give you example after example of them using radiometric dating on items of known age, and it doesn't work.
Well, they even test the same sample twice and come up with different ages.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, yeah, that happens. So, in fact, here's maybe the difference is that things just happen. Like for the empiricism is something I value a lot, right? And so it's like, okay, if you find this peculiar, like no-eyed species of lizard in a cave somewhere underground, it's like, okay, well, these are here. What about that led here? And so, like, to your candle example too, it's just like, hey, we have to look at like outside because we see this and we can't draw any conclusions from this in a vacuum.
I
And your
love
point about
the
like
cave example. That's one of my studies there. So around the area where I live, there's a cave that you can go visit, and the fish that are in the cave are born without eyes. They have these little eye sockets, but there's no longer eyeballs. That is an example of degrading. Now you can take those fish and put them in the normal population of other fish, but they're still inferior because they've lost their eyes. That's an example of losing.
So
evolution would say they would have to gain.
So that's untrue.
No, not always.
What happened?
Always.
Evolution is that you adjust to your environment. That is an example of
All right, let me
evolution.
keep it really, really, really simple. Everybody would have to agree that there had to be a beneficial mutation. Correct?
Sure.
Okay.
Mutations
All right.
aren't always
great,
useful.
great. Okay, listen.
Mutations, no,
What?
mutations
Just give
aren't
me
always
one.
useful.
Hold on. We agreed that there had to be a beneficial mutation. Give me one.
No, we don't agree.
Okay,
Sure.
not you. Then
Yeah,
I ain't talking to
because
you.
I
I'm
was gonna
talking to the people that agreed. Because I don't know where you're coming from. We lost everything.
Because
That's how we
not
gained it all.
because not all mutations are beneficial, or not all mutations are even useful.
Hold on.
They might just
Both of those things are true.
Everybody just pause for a second. The reason why is we're going back to where I was at to begin with. You got a little bit of an echo, so mute up, guys, just for a second. It's hard to hear when I'm hearing myself talk through your talk. It's messing me up. So what I said earlier is we talked about faith and we talked about the definition. I gave a standard for mine, genetic information gain. What my man was saying is that degradation could not possibly be part of evolution. And every single one of y'all, the moment he said that, jumped up and said, yes, it is, yes, it is, yes, it is. Well, if you're being intellectually honest, no, it can't be. If you believe that yes, it is, then the conversation really don't need to go forward because you have no standard. Because if I gave you an example, you have no standard that I could give you that would disprove evolution. If you looked at an organism that's right in front of you, you would conclude evolution got it to this point. So it doesn't need to evolve anymore, like the coelacanth. It doesn't need to evolve because we see it in the fossil record the way that it is today. It doesn't need to evolve anymore because it's reached its prime thing and it's no longer facing any threats, so it doesn't need to evolve. You assume evolution got it there. If it does evolve and you see genetic information gain, then you claim that's evolution. Or if it starts losing its fins and it starts degrading, you go, oh yeah, that's evolution. There's literally no way that I could ever prove evolution to you because you don't have a standard. Everything to you is evolution.
Do you think
That's
humans
the faith
are
system.
evolved? Do you think humans are evolved? Yes
Oh,
or no?
now we jumped away from my question.
Hold on. Do you think humans are evolved, host? Yes or no?
So we're going to answer yours and not mine? Okay.
Well, we can in a minute, but he just went on this whole spiel, so I want to know whether he thinks that humans
All right,
are
fair.
evolved. Yes or no?
All right, so I'll answer this, and then we'll go back to him so he can have his questions because I do have rules and they have to be answered directly. So I've already defined microevolution. So yes, I believe humans can evolve. But if you're talking about macro, which is the conversation that we're talking about, degradation could not possibly count as evidence for evolution because you're losing information. And just like my man said, if we break it down to a simple mathematical equation, how did we all get here? Well, we lost everything, and that's why we're here today. Doesn't make sense. Now, I've answered your question directly.
No, you didn't. That wasn't my question. I was asking whether or not you think that humans are completely evolved right now. Are we evolved? Yes or no?
How do you not get what I just said?
I mean,
Evolved
you
as far as
said, we
what?
talked about macro and micro, but
Yeah.
whether or not we have or what we are doing right now is irrelevant to me. I'm asking right now, as humans stand,
In
are
what
we
sense?
evolved?
In what sense? Are we going to continue to micro evolve, meaning that some of our traits will get isolated?
I'm not
Just
asking
say
you
no
what
so she can get
what
back
we're-
to me.
I don't know what she's asking. It's not.
I'm
it
not
doesn't make
asking
no
you
sense.
what we're
She's been
going
up here
to
the longest.
continue to do because you were talking about other species being able to do other things, and what I guess my entire point is that we also have an appendix. You know, like that doesn't do anything for us either.
Yes, it does.
Not
It's
having
part of-
not having
Yes, it
eyes.
does.
Not having eyes is the same exact thing for
No,
like
it's
the
not. The
fish
appendix-
and the.
The
Okay,
appendix
what
is
does the
part of the
appendix do
immune
for us
system.
right now? No,
The
you're
appen-
wrong. The appendix doesn't do anything for us right
Okay,
now.
do me,
That isn't.
stop. I have let you up here, and now if you're just it's okay to be wrong, but I almost starting to feel like you're being dishonest now. Go look up the appendix and ask it if it's part of the immune system because you are factually inaccurate about this. Yes, it is. The appendix is not vestigial, meaning it doesn't have a function. You are so wrong about that. Go look that up because you're wrong. Now, to my man D, I said we was going to get back on it. I did answer your question. I've been answering it this whole time as far as macro and micro. If you can't follow up to this point, sorry, the conversation doesn't need to go on. But the appendix is not an example of a vestigial structure because it is part of the immune system. I'm sorry if you don't know that, but it is.
We don't need it, and I'm going to land my plane there.
I don't care. You might not need both your arms and both your legs and both your eyes. It doesn't mean that you can't. That you
I'm
don't
saying
use
to survive, sir. We're talking about eyes on a fish in a cave. They obviously don't need their eyes in a cave to survive. They can lose them the same way
Okay.
we can lose an appendix, and it won't
Yeah, it
matter
just-
at all. You know
it
exactly
will-
what I'm saying. You just won't.
I got you. I got you,
It
girl.
will
I know
matter.
exactly
Hold on,
what
I'm
you're
gonna
saying.
I'm gonna land this, and I promise you I'm gonna go to D. But it absolutely does matter. You are if you can lose both your arms, yes, you can live without them, but it doesn't mean you don't need them. You can lose your appendix, but to say that you don't need it, again, you're factually inaccurate. You are subject to
Those
get
are
more
so
diseases.
different, and
Get off my
you're
stage.
being.
I know I'm being normal, and now you're starting to be dishonest and lie. The appendix is not vestigial. You look that up. You were factually inaccurate. So then you come back in here and you try to say we don't need it. First, it was vestigial, and it wasn't part of the immune system. That was your first claim. When you were wrong about that, you've been up here for hours and you've been great. But the moment my man brought up that you can't use degradation, he has attacked your religious viewpoint and you have lost your mind. You have got to take up for your God now. And now you're going to come up here and be dishonest and say that the appendix is not part of the immune system. Yes, it is. Then you changed your argument to say that we don't need it. Yes, we do. It's part of the immune system. Yes, you can live without it, but you are subject to get certain, you're more likely to get certain amount of diseases that if you catch a disease, it'll be harsher on you because you don't have the appendix. So dishonest. Twin Dragon D, I'm sorry you got interrupted so much, man. Go ahead.
We lost everything. That's how we gained it all. Open question, and then if anybody can answer me, I'm done. Evolution, Christianity, everything is done. And you may have hit on this earlier. I wasn't in the room the whole time. One beneficial mutation that is observed and not inferred. Just one. Not degradation. We didn't lose everything, and that's how we gained it all. One beneficial mutation, open question, who can answer it? Just one.
So I would say that your sense of touch is a beneficial mutation.
Okay, that's not inferred. Show me something that didn't have the when did we not have touch? When did we gain it?
I would say, oh my God, I don't have like
I
a
love you, brother.
lineage.
Did you see how you just pulled that out of thin air? I can say taste.
Well, no, it would happen at some point. I don't want to give you false information, but like at
Yeah.
a certain
What
point,
about
you would
smell?
develop neurons.
Are you?
I'm not.
Are you?
It would be like post.
You're inferring
Man.
that we didn't have it at one point.
Are you?
Oh yeah. That's I thought the point was to
No,
say
not
an
not to
inference point.
infer. I can wish about anything I want to too, and just guess and pull stuff up. Not
Well,
inferred.
it's supported because there are organisms that don't have
And that we
these
came from it?
things.
Okay,
Oh,
how
I
did
don't
we come
know,
from
but
that?
like, we split like way back at like
You just
amoeba
you
stuff.
jumped on this and said the first thing. Blue.
Well, so how do you think this would be demonstrable? And I would try to find an example for you.
I want evidence. I want
Yeah, sure.
science-based evidence. Now,
Love it.
I
when
have
in
one.
we talked about the Bible and stuff like that, I can't explain a miracle, and I would never try to explain a miracle. You said how Jesus turned water into wine. Please explain that. I would say it's a miracle. I don't know, brother. I can't do it. But if you ask me to explain how wine is made today, that's scientific. I can tell you age, time, grapes, squish. I can give you science. So when we're talking about science, and that's what we're talking about, one, and it's destroyed everything that no one can answer this without inference and say, well, I believe. One piece of evidence that shows a beneficial mutation, just one,
Hey,
A
of
bigger brain.
information gain.
hey, twin. I want to say, I'm on the other side. As a matter of fact, I want to say the fish that can't see in the cave or whatever. If that was the case, wouldn't it be able to gain an ability to see in darkness? If that's the case, because it's to be better, right?
It doesn't see. Now, when the person
Right, but
goes,
it should.
when a man
But I'm
goes,
saying that it should be able to. It should be able to evolve eyes that can see in darkness to survive. Correct?
oh, if evolution was real, you think it
Yeah.
would something would come up other than
Right.
just being
They,
blind.
That's all I wanted to say. That's all.
All
I'm
right.
sure they evolved an extra, like a extra sense of their surroundings, like things moving in water. Like they
Right,
could probably
extra
feel
feelings.
more
Well,
minute.
wolves
When a
can see.
human goes
Wolves can see in
blind,
darkness,
when
sir.
when a
Wolves can see
baby
in
is born
darkness.
I
blind,
understand.
they have heightened
Okay,
senses
so
too. That's not evolution. That's focus. You're focusing on everything else better. You've trained your sense of smell better. You've trained your sense of hearing better because you've lost something else. That's focus. That's not evolution.
Hey, brother, I appreciate the conversation, man. I know you said your phone was about to die, but I do appreciate the conversation. Thank you for coming up.
Twin, were you
Go
wanting a
ahead.
mutation in humans or like just anything?
Anything that you can prove that is beneficial, information gain, not
Yeah,
inferred.
yeast getting copper, like yeast generations developing copper and sulfite resistances. This has been in lab.
How did it do it? What was the mutation?
You want me to just Google it real quick? It's just copper and sulfite resistance.
Let's see. Let me take a look at that. Coming.
And by the
I do
way,
have
I
a really
looked it
dumb
up
question though.
real quick. By the way, I looked it up, and the appendix does support the immune system and acts as a reservoir for beneficial gut
Yeah,
bacteria.
for bacteria. I know. It's a really recent thing figuring out what it does, but
Well,
there's way better vestigial
I do appreciate. Thank you for that, but no, it's not recent. I've known about it for a while. So is creationist. Matter of fact, so is evolutionist. That's literally why they changed the definition of vestigial. Vestigial used to mean completely useless, and then they had to get rid of that because they realized it wasn't.
Can you explain the yeast and how that became beneficial? Just real quick.
Yeah, being resistant to like copper and sulfite makes them not die.
What he's
I
talking
don't know
about,
how else to really
you're
put
gonna have
it.
to give like what mutated. That's what he's talking about, brother. Not just
Yeah.
that they're just claiming that it happened.
Oh, like their DNA? I'm not too sure.
Millions of yeast cells.
All right. So again, I'm not hating because I definitely don't know about it. That's why I'm asking you. But it sounds like it's inferred.
It's in a laboratory setting. I mean, it's
Okay,
so
bacteria.
it's
Bacteria can do the same. I don't
yeast.
know
It's not
about the
bacteria.
yeast, but the
I got it.
bacteria can do the same thing.
I got it. So I Googled it, guys, just so you again, this is the thing that you brought up. So if you have something specific and you think that I'm wrong and not doing it justice, then give me the specific thing. But I Googled how did the yeast become resistant to the copper sulfate, like you just stated. Initial population. Millions of yeast cells are present. Some already had the ability to handle copper. The ones that didn't died out, and the ones that already had it lived. So it sounded like it predated it, brother. So it didn't evolve. It was
I
already in the
mean,
population.
what do you think evolution is? It's just changing a population over time.
He asked you for a beneficial mutation, and you gave an example of something that pre-existed in the bacteria, in the yeast. So pre-existing meaning that it didn't evolve to it, right? So the example that you brought doesn't work.
Right. Okay.
Weren't we just talking about seeing in the dark though? Like how wolves can see in the dark? Isn't that a beneficial mutation?
No, he was stating that should happen. So, for example, the cavefish went blind, but we have examples of deep ocean fish, like the anglerfish, that has a light that comes off of its head that attracts other fish to it. So, if evolution is true, and this fish in this cave doesn't have it, losing your eyes is degradation. But if it evolved a light source so that it could see inside the cave, then that would be an example of evolution. And he's saying that didn't happen.
But mutations don't just happen like that. Like it's not going to be a fish that doesn't have that light, and then the next
What I'm
generation is
saying
going to
is
have that light.
every
That kind of mutation doesn't work.
Every mutation that's ever been observed has been harmful or neutral. Those fish that he's talking about, the fish are on the outside of the cave. The same species are on the outside of the cave. They're twin fish. The one on the outside has eyes. The one on the inside lost its eyes. You can say, it has better heightened smell or whatever, but it has lost. It is degraded. At some point down the line somewhere, something had to gain something that its predecessors didn't have. It didn't have. I need an example of that somewhere.
So in that example, eyes are very costly when it comes to energy. So them losing their eyes can be probably because it costs more
Are
energy.
you going to explain how
keep them.
losing your eyes is beneficial?
Because it costs more energy to keep the eyes than to not keep the eyes.
Yeah, we lost it all. That's how we got here.
Still not an example of evolution. All right, so
Yes,
I've been
how is
doing
that
this.
not?
Okay, I've been doing this for several hours,
sorry.
guys. I'm not trying to. No, you're good. You're good. I don't want to rush y'all, but I am at 26% here, and I do want to get to Alex since she is being calm, cool, and collective. I am going to make this my last guest, though, guys. Alex, what's up?
Are you talking to me? Alexis?
Alexis, I couldn't see the rest of your name. You changed your profile picture too, haven't you?
I changed my profile. I was just coming up to say hey and listen to, our evolutionists and seeing how that goes for them. This complex world being one big old bang and then, We got uteruses. You guys got what you got.
I got a
We can
question
do
for
this.
Alexis.
Yes.
Have you seen the picture with my shirt off?
I.
Get out of here.
I don't think I want to.
I'm just
But
messing with
anyway, family, I had to check in on you. Are you done for today?
Well, I let my man up because I couldn't see your whole name because of the way my thing's set up, but then I recognized your voice as soon as you said it. So, and he left. I was getting ready to engage with him, but he left. I let him up. But
Yeah. So are you done for tonight, or are you coming back on, or?
Nah, I'm going to be done for the night. Does anybody have any additional questions before I roll out?
How often do you go live with this?
I do it every Monday and every Thursday between 5 and 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then I do it randomly. So Mondays and Thursdays for sure, and then whenever else I can, like tonight, if I'm not doing anything, then I'll go live randomly. But definitely Mondays and Thursdays for sure.
Word.
All right. I'll see you.
All right,
I'll see you.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
So, Ethan, the reason why I said I do this, man, is because I want to strengthen the faith of the Christians, and I want to get you saved if you're not. So my last question to you is, you've been a reasonable guest. You're able to follow. Evolution is not a salvation issue. So what do you know about Jesus, man?
Well, I grew up Christian. My parents, I was pretty much a pastor's kid. So I'm very familiar with Christianity and what it teaches. I just think everything works without the assumption of a God. And I mean, I guess, you never know, but I don't think that Jesus rose from the dead, because that's never happened before, and there's nothing to really, the evidence is lacking, I think, pretty much. But
Well,
yeah, that's pretty much where I stand.
All right, good. Fair enough. But what do you think about the empty tomb? Like, how is that not? So, do you believe Jesus was a historical figure that he walked the earth, he just didn't rise from the dead?
Yeah, I can concede that he was a historical figure for sure.
Sure. Now, if we're being intellectually honest, the same place where you get that Jesus walked this planet as a man is the same place that says he rose from the dead. So why do we choose to believe the first part but not the second part? The only reason you know about the first part is because of the second part.
Well, the first part, people around the time and around the area wrote some about there being a Jesus. So that's why, I'll concede that. But him being the Son of God is a leap.
Okay, so let's walk through it. So they wrote about this man named Jesus who was stirring up trouble because he was running around doing these miracles, if you will. But even if you don't want to go with that, he was claiming these things that clearly upset the Jews because he was claiming to be the Messiah. So they wanted him unalive. So the Romans unalived him for it. And his disciples later claimed that he had risen from the grave. We understand when this was written, within 20 years of the crucifixion. Why didn't the Romans, or the Jews for that matter, say, hey, these Christians are clearly lying. Here's the grave. Here's the body.
Well, okay, so just because the tomb was emptied, I don't think anything could have happened. Like, people could have stole the body.
His disciples went through multiple tortures, brother, ungodly tortures, and something that they said they believe. All they had to do was deny the faith, and they wouldn't have been tortured or unalived. And they went through all of that for something that they didn't believe in. That is the biggest testimony.
No, that's just because somebody believes in something doesn't make it right. Just because somebody will go through unimaginable pain because of it doesn't make it right. Like,
so let me bring this home a little bit, because yes, people will unalive for things they believe in. We see this in cults all the time. But now you're going to have to explain, like he said, they were tortured, not for something that they didn't believe in, because clearly they believed it, but something that they knew that they had made up. These guys were claiming that they had seen the risen Christ. And not only just like, it wasn't a vision, they claimed that he stayed with them for 40 days and for 40 nights. They could stick their finger in his holes in his hand and their hand in his side. So this wasn't a vision. They made these claims. Why would they unalive through torturous means if they knew that these claims were clearly made up? And it wasn't just one, you had 500 witnesses.
And it wasn't just
So
one disciple, every one but one.
okay. So I maybe they did believe that they saw him, but why are they the only ones that could have taken the body? Like, what if somebody has heard about all these miracles that this one man is doing, and okay, maybe I can have things happen for me if I have his body?
That's the point,
Or
brother. If they took the
Great
body
question.
and
So
hid
they
it,
hold on a second. Sorry. So it's a great question. Anybody could have taken the body, and we've seen that that's what they believe at first. That when Mary got to the thing, they asked the gardener, which was Jesus, but they thought it was the gardener. Said, "Where have you taken his body?" So they wasn't claiming a resurrection. They would thought that the body was taken. The resurrection comes from them literally seeing him, not the fact that somebody took the body. So if somebody had taken the body and they had not seen Jesus, then they wouldn't claim a resurrection. They would claim somebody took the body. And we know through the evidence that the Jews were afraid that they were going to do this, so they had the Romans set the seal and guards outside of it so nobody could take it. So it wasn't the fact that the body was just missing. It's the fact that he was risen and he walked around with them for 40 days.
okay, so my biggest problem with all of this is the Bible was written to portray these things. That's what I believe. I believe that
Great question.
like
I know where you're going with this too. Let me help you out. Do you know who Luke was?
um wasn't he was a tax collector? Maybe was that Luke?
Luke was the investigator. He wasn't one of the disciples. He was the
Okay.
investigator. He wrote the book of Luke's and he wrote the book of Acts. Luke and
Okay.
Acts are both written to a man named Theophilus, or it's his title. Luke and Acts both start off, I'm writing this to you, Theophilus. So what we can defer when we look at Luke and Acts is that there was probably this Roman or Jewish individual who was high ranking and had a lot of money. And he started hearing these things about the resurrection of Jesus, right? Because it's going around like wildfire. So he hires this historian / investigator named Luke. And he says, go look into this and report back to me. The book of Luke and the book of Acts are those letters that he wrote to Theophilus to tell them what's happening. And Luke starts off by saying he wasn't an eyewitness, but he did the investigation. He interviewed eyewitnesses. This is the person that you want to send to determine if this is true or not. An outside source is getting an investigator to go investigate this. They're sending in a detective. A detective gathers all the information of all the sources. He compiles them in the letter and he sends it to Theophilus and he says, this is what I found. Luke and Acts are written clearly by a historical figure because of the names and stuff mentioned. So when Paul is on the road to Damascus and he claims to have met the risen Christ, this could have been easily debunked because Luke mentions the individuals that put him on trial. Paul went through several different trials by the Romans and by the Jews, and Paul had appeal rights because he was a Roman citizen. So he went to these different court sessions, basically. Luke writes down who these individuals were. We can go back through through historical records that's non-biblical and determine that these individuals lived at the time Luke said it was there. We also can date Paul's letters to the time that these individuals were living. So the evidence is that you were a Christian. You could investigate this for yourself. You could go to the judge. You could go to the jury and say, hey, this man named Paul is claiming to have met the risen Christ. He is claiming that these Roman soldiers were with him. They didn't see any light, but they heard a voice. Can you corroborate this story, or is this guy just making this crap up by writing you into this? Clearly, Christianity would have been failed because Luke puts the times and the dates and the people all in the area, and it's historically accurate. These things happened, and Christianity flourished because of it.
How long after the fact did Luke write these things?
Before 70 AD, because the destruction of the temple was in 70 AD. Now, if you Google this, the mainstream non-Christian scholars are going to say that it's after 70 AD. And the reason they date it after, and Jesus unalived in 33 AD. So you got about a 30-year time period there when these are written, according to the scholars, right? The reason that they say that Luke was written after 70 AD is because the Jesus predicts the destruction of the temple. The temple was destroyed in 70 AD. So non-Christian scholars go, clearly this book is written after because we don't believe Jesus is divine, so there's no way that he could have predicted that. So that's the reason that they placed the book of Luke and Acts after, or especially Luke anyway, because Luke's one of the Gospels, because it notates the destruction of the temple is going to come. So they're saying there's no way that they could have predicted that. But if you look at the book of Luke, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, all of them, there's no mention of the destruction of the temple, and there's no mention of Paul being unalived. And clearly, you would mention these things. If Jesus said that not one stone is going to be on top of another, and then that happens in 70 AD, and you're writing a book about it afterwards, you would clearly say that happened, and God got it, or Jesus got it right. But the fact there's no mention of the temple shows that these books were written earlier. And we can go to the archaeological evidence that Luke mentions about they turned over stones, and there was some conjecture about the rank Luke calls some of these individuals that put Paul on trial. Luke says this individual was this rank, and mainstream scholars said that he got it wrong until they found an archaeological site where they actually turned over a rock and it had the name of the individual Luke was talking about, and it called him by the correct rank. So that confirmed what the Bible said also. So we know that, again, Luke was written around that time. So the Gospels were written before 70 AD. I know there's some conjecture about that, but I think the evidence clearly goes that before 70 AD.
So let's say an average about 20 years that after the fact, we can agree on that.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So do you not think there were, I don't want to say ulterior motives, but an incentive for him to have Jesus look like this figure that can rise from the dead and create miracles?
Yeah, but these are separate sources. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John all say the same thing. Now, we do know that Luke was using sources. He was using Mark as a source, right? So you can take those two, but you're going to have to explain Matthew. How did these were not put together in a codex yet? These were still scrolls. So how did they? You're going to have to explain that they got together and they wrote these with differing information, but not contradictory, to make this thing. It's pretty unbelievable because again, this wasn't a codex. It was scroll form.
Yeah, but when did all the rest of them? When did Mark, Matthew, and John? How long after the fact were they made?
We don't actually. No one knows. I would just say before 70 AD, but obviously we don't have the earliest manuscripts.
And ones that are written earlier, the later ones didn't. You don't think they had access to those scrolls?
Could be.
So, and a lot of some of them contradict each other, which
Like what?
I'm like the birth of Jesus. His so you're gonna have to forgive me. I forget
I got you.
which says
talking
which.
you're talking about the lineages. So you have to understand what a contradiction is. A contradiction is A and B both can't be, or B can't be A and B in the same situation at the same time. So that's a contradiction. Now, when you're talking about the birth, what you're talking about the lineages. In one place it says the one begot and the other one was the father of, and it gives different names. But you
No. I'm talking about how one says they went to Egypt and then fled from Egypt, and then one of them says they went straight to Jerusalem.
Yeah, but that's not a contradiction. They did. It's giving you an overarching time frame. One of them is many years apart, and the other one's immediate.
but two different books. One book says they went straight to Jerusalem. Another one says they went to Egypt to come back, then go to Jerusalem.
But they did. So they did. They went to Jerusalem, went to Egypt, and then went back to Jerusalem. So again, one book is talking about a real quick time frame, and the other one's giving the overarching story, and both of them are absolutely correct. It's not because the wise men come when he was a toddler. Just because when Luke talks about him being the birth story, it talks about the three wise men that come. That story is compressed because people think they always have this thing of the three wise men looking over baby Jesus in the manger. This is not true. You can look at the timelines when he went to Herod, and then when they found this wasn't a very quick thing. Jesus was a toddler when the wise men found him. It took this was a long extended period of time.
All right, I'm gonna have to do some more greater in-depth research so I can have my ducks in a row. But
Hold on, I don't like the way you phrase that. I don't want you to go research it to come back and win a debate, because you might stump me and you might win the debate, but that's not what research is for. I want you to research it to determine it and be intellectually honest, as you have been so far. You have been. I don't want you to go research it just to come back in here and prove me wrong, because then that's not you're not learning anything, and neither am I from that. It's just us learning stuff so we can argue, and I don't want to do that. I want you to go research it to determine if it's true and if this is an actual contradiction or if it's not. And that's what I want you to look into. If you determine that it is an actual contradiction, feel free to bring it back to me.
okay, I'm gonna look at all four texts to see what they're all getting at. So
Thank you.
I
appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, I love how you challenge everybody, and it's because you know your stuff, and I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, to God be the glory. All right, man. Give me a follow. If you got any questions, send them my way. I'll do my best to answer them for you, and I would love to lead you back to Christ, man.
Word up, definitely. I'll give you the follow. I definitely will see you on Mondays and Thursdays.
All right, sounds good, brother. See you then.
All right.
All right. Mr. Allen.
4.
Hey, how's it going?
Man, doing good. Had some good conversation. Can we agree
Yeah,
on
you
this?
had some good ones. Yeah, I had some good ones today. You having any storms tomorrow?
Man, I hope not. I got to get some grass mowed.
We are. I mean, it's going to be late evening. So if we get them late evening, it'd be later, I guess, than you would get them, during the night, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Tomorrow and
I do
Sunday.
appreciate the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Tomorrow and Sunday, is what they said. Well, like tomorrow evening and Sunday morning, but like maybe it'll be a little bit later by the time it goes over the mountain,
Yeah.
But,
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you guys for the support, the stickers and stuff you guys give me. I do appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, even though sometimes I have to stop. Some people also give to the PayPal that's on my page there, and I appreciate that support. I'm putting it right back into the ministry. So before I leave, I just want to say that I appreciate it and thank you guys for the support. It doesn't go unnoticed, even though I can't stop what I'm doing all the time and say that I appreciate it. I appreciate the follows. I appreciate the support that I get from you guys. It really is encouraging to me when I sit up here and deal with people that tonight's been good, but most of the time, you guys know I deal with a lot of people that just hate Christ, and that'll drag on people for a while. So the support that I get from you guys is very uplifting, and I appreciate it. As always, Mr. Allen, you get the last word.
Did you get what I sent you today?
What'd you send me today?
Something that Kent Hogan posted.
I hadn't seen it yet. So when did you send
it? Today.
Okay, I'll go check it out as soon as I get off here.
Okay, well, you said you was about dead. Charge your battery up first.
Sounds good.
Okay, God bless you and keep going strong.
All right, guys. God bless.